Vogliamo correre. Perché...
Because here we are for the first race of the season, the Australian Grand Prix here in Premier X Season 3. And the lights go out. We wait for them to go out for the drivers. A long hold, but we are underway here in Australia. And it looks like a good start from Vallu there, but both Christian Sendel and Jan Fehler, they're going to be alongside each other into turn 1, but it is as you were from the front 3. Vexit challenging Lars Algera behind, but Lars has just been able to hold on to 5th for now. Vexit still sitting down there in 6th. Cameron Cooper, Zola battling at the back, and there is Vexit going for another go up the inside of Lars this time, and he takes the position away from the Alfa Romeo. Connor Eddy also getting past Ben there in that battle in turn 3 as well, but it's still the 2 McLarens leading from Vallu and Peso. As that's Ricardo who's had an issue at the very back. We saw a couple of DNFs here on the exit of turn 12. I don't think that car is moving. That's the exit of turn 4, and we have a safety car. Zola in the Haas crashes out on the exit of turn 4, bringing out the first safety car of the season. We are seeing Peso into the pit, so he's rolling the dice then. The Czech driver in the Williams wants to go for the win today and thinks the best way of doing that is by going the opposite direction to everyone else. Could be any time now. The safety car is in the pit lane, so they can gun it whenever, and out to the final corner it will be for the 2 Germans in the McLarens leading the way. Vexit's got a good restart, pretty close up behind his teammate Vallu there, who is slightly slow at getting back underway. Ice Loop has had an issue as well out of the final corner. And that's Ben going into the pits as well, so he must have picked up front wing damage. Ice Looper falling all the way down. I didn't catch what happened, but we did see the Renault losing it in qualifying at some point out of that final corner before. Chaotic battling here at the back as Sandro, Ricardo, Ice Looper all trying to go side by side here. Sandro desperate to hold on to that position ahead of the racing point, but the Hong Kong driver goes all the way around the outside. Beautifully done by Ricardo up into 15th. Jan Fehler into the pits from 2nd.
This is a very, very early pit stop from these soft tyres. So Jan Fehler trying to get off a pretty huge undercut on it to Christian Sendel. Exit seemingly having more pace, and Vallu's lost the rear end.
Oh!
Oh, what a save! That was incredible from Vallu. Any other driver would have easily lost the wheel, but somehow Vallu has come out of it with no visible damage. Expect him, though, to come into the pits at the end of this lap for a set of hards.
Same for Vexit, both of them going for mediums to the end here, but Labrax, who pitted on the same lap, went for the hards. So difference in decisions, difference in strategy between these drivers right now. Jan Fehler is behind Vexit, by the way, but he's not going to be behind him for too much longer if he has anything to say about it. Looking to try and dive up the inside. It's desperate from Jan, and he can't make the move stick. Vexit holding on to what is effectively P2. Here comes Jan Thaler trying to get past KX Ricardo. Manages to do so in the braking zone there. That is important because Vexit is starting to drive away further up. Sandro wasn't able to quite capitalize as Riptide and Connor Eddy both heading into the pits. Two of the drivers remaining on soft tires. Ice Looper, the last remaining soft tire runner, also into the pits. Here's Vallu driving clean around the outside of Sandro, and Jeffrey Ritchie follows suit, so to keep anyone behind him at this stage. Here's Christian Sendel, and he's not wanting to be behind Peso, and it's around the outside, and it is a clean overtake. Peso with no reply there. Christian Sendel, who's in the firing line. Further up, that's Peso and Cameron Cooper battling side by side. Peso trying to get past and manages to do so around the outside of 4. That is a lovely move there from the Williams. Vexit getting close to them as well. Meanwhile, further back, Ritchie was able to get past Jan Thaler, but here comes Vexit trying to get around the outside of Cameron Cooper, who's struggling now on his 15-lap-old medium tires.
Still finishes on the podium as here comes Vexit down the inside of Peso, down into Clark chicane. Peso's going to hold it round the outside and holds on to the P4 spot, but here comes a Vexit around the outside of the sweeping left-hander on the run down into turn 11 and 12, but Vexit has to slot in behind once again.
That's wise. You do not want to be trying to go side by side through turn 11. That is an airplane crash waiting to happen. But right now, he might have a look into 13. Tries to go around the outside, but Peso's more wise to that than he was before, showing the door on the exit of that corner there. Meanwhile, further back, Vallu and Jan Thaler have both been able to get past Marinkello, the Italian struggling in that Haas right now. But Vexit has been able to dispatch Peso finally into turn 15, it looks like.
Oh, here comes Vallu down the inside of Jan Thaler. This is a battle for position, and Vallu up to a P7. He pulls off the move, and Jan Thaler is really struggling on those hard tires.
Showing his nose there to KX Ricardo, who should be a very easy pass here. 18-lap-old hards versus 2-lap-old softs, and the white and navy Alpha Tauri makes its way past the pink racing point.
Jeffrey Ritchie's on Peso right now, and they are battling down into turn 3 side by side. Peso's got the inside into 4, but the Alfa Romeo around the outside. Fantastic battling between the pair of them.
Very, very well done indeed by Jeffrey Ritchie. That's another audacious move that's been pulled off against Peso.
Hamo and Connor Eddy, currently 7 seconds between the pair of them, but these soft tires are slowly going to get worse and worse. Ollie looks for the inside, but has to switch to the outside on the run down into Clark's chicane.
It's not often you nearly hit the rear end of the car ahead through turn 8, which is a flat-out corner. But Ollie with a huge difference in track past Ricardo down into turn 1 or turn 3 if he can't manage it then. Maybe headed into the final corner there. He had to back out of that one a little bit soon because Ricardo had a big moment on the apex. But now this should be easy pickings for the Mercedes on those soft tires, getting past the racing point. Not actually doing it into turn 1 though, waiting for turn 3, but surely it is only a matter of... Wait, where's he gone? Oh no, he was there. He was just so in his wheel tracks, I thought he disappeared and went off-road. But there he is, the Mercedes going around the outside, pulls off the magic trick, and moves up into 12. On his first ever race in Premier X, the first race of Premier X Season 3, we knew the McLarens would be strong, but we didn't know that Christian Sendel would be this strong. He wins the race by a margin of 12 seconds down to Vexit. That will become 15 seconds once Vexit's time penalty is factored in as well. Vexit with a solid drive to second, but he'll be disappointed to see himself so far behind Christian Sendel. Here comes Jeffrey Ritchie with a great drive to third and a podium slot. Jan Thaler manages to salvage fourth after a race that really didn't go his way. And Vallu falling all the way down into 8th, will be able to stay ahead of Riptide, but nevertheless, a really poor start to his title defense for the Finn. Ollie P on the Contra Strategy manages 10th, and Labrax will come home in 11th, just ahead of Cameron Cooper after penalties are factored in.
Good afternoon, ladies and gents, and welcome to round 2 of Formula X Racing Season 3 as we're making our way to Brazil. And I'm Yousuf Milky Cereal, bin-Suhayl, as always, joined by the wonderful Jacob Aladar Hancox. And Jacob, we've flown over from Australia now to Brazil on the other side of the world, and I reckon we're in for some fantastic racing today.
Yeah, no, certainly. Brazil, always a fun track. Usually, right now, I'd be talking about how it's one pretty unpredictable track in terms of weather conditions, but of course, it's going to be an all dry race, which, to be honest, probably a good thing, really. All races this season are going to be all dry this season 3, in case anyone wasn't aware of that fact. And yeah, hopefully, plenty of overtaking opportunities, particularly into turn 1 here in Brazil.
Turn 1, one of the biggest overtaking spots on the track. Also down into turn 4, the Descida de Lago at the end of the Reta Aposta Straight. Now, we saw from the highlights Christian Sendel claiming the opening round victory, but it wasn't, well, actually, it was a pretty straightforward win for Christian Sendel. His pace was absolutely phenomenal, and I think that 15-second gap reflects it. But that is not to say that it's going to be the same again today. Jan Fehler made some mistakes with his strategy, Vallu picking up time penalties, and Vexit being caught up in traffic. We could be seeing that four-way fight between the McLarens and the Red Bulls today.
Yeah, we absolutely could. I mean, we saw it in qualifying last time out, and obviously things went different in the race. But Vexit and Jan Fehler were affected by a lot more traffic than Christian Sendel was. Christian did have to make his way through traffic and did a much better job of it. But because of Jan Fehler's compromise strategy in particular, it wasn't the two McLarens going toe-to-toe like we might have expected. Vallu as well, it was a very off day for the Finn. Managed to put it all together in qualifying, but didn't really seem to have the race pace or the consistency or the ability to keep it on track in the race itself compared to what we're used to seeing from the Finn. Apparently, he was very, very tired that day, which is a little bit of an excuse, but, you know, it can definitely affect your capabilities, certainly. So we might be seeing a rather stronger version of Vallu here today as well.
And we did get confirmation as well that Vallu was racing, or I should say, is racing without the racing line. Back in Season 2, he was racing with a racing line. So we're expecting Vallu's pace, or more specifically, his consistency, to improve over the course of the season and maybe being able to match the likes of Vexit. Vexit picking up a P2. He didn't have a great qualifying result, only qualifying down in P6 after invalidating his final lap. And that was a lap where he was purple at the end of Sector 2. So maybe he could knock Christian Sendel off that top spot in quali.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. I mean, the thing is, as well, it's hard to tell. It's only been one race so far. People can specialize in certain tracks. Other people cannot like certain tracks. So seeing a rather different affair here in Brazil. It's not a very similar track at all to what we see in Melbourne either. So we should get a bit of a different idea potentially of the running order. And if certain things remain the same, then maybe we can start to say, yeah, Christian Sendel does look like he's going to be the best driver this season if he runs away with it again here today.
And we're talking about the top drivers of the league. Let's move to some of the drivers we expect to be in the midfield, because there were a few surprises, to say the least. Ben, who subbed in for the opening race, he had a DNF, sad to hear. But Lars Algera down in P14, we definitely expected him to be higher up the order.
Yes, indeed. It was a great first stint for Lars. It went really well, but you can see 9 seconds of time penalty there. That didn't help, and just really struggled in that second stint of the race on the harder set of tires. I can't remember. I think he might have pitted a bit earlier than some other drivers as well. He was driving a bit of a train. He was up there in about, fourth or fifth before the pit stops came through. So he really was having a great race. And yeah, there was a bit of train behind. He pitted. They didn't, and they managed to leapfrog him. And it all went a little bit wrong in the end of the race for Lars.
And we're expecting Alfa Romeo to be towards the top of the Constructors' Championship. We'll take a look at that in just a moment. But Lars starting all the way up in P5, finishing down in P14. Another name that didn't perform too well was the second Williams of Sandro, down in P17 at the end of the race, describing it as one of his worst league races, I think, of all time. And he's going to be hoping to pick up the pieces and pick up the pace here in Sao Paulo.
Yeah, I mean, he did have a little bit of pace in the rawest sense because he did manage to snag that fastest lap at least. So he got his extra point for that. But yeah, Sandro had a rough time. I think there was some issues with the monitor that you mentioned last time out.
Yes.
And I think maybe he was driving on a very small monitor, which is obviously going to make things a lot more difficult. So the Belgian should be a bit more back on form, provided that issue's been sorted out here, or at least we've had more time to practice in limited conditions such as that. So either way, we should and we're definitely hoping for a better performance from Sandro.
And I would like to just take a quick look at the Constructors' Championship. Oh, beautiful. See, production on a point today. McLaren leading the championship, which is kind of what we expected with Red Bull there or thereabouts. Alfa Romeo in that P3 spot.
Yeah, no, it's more or less the sort of order we were expecting. It's not everyone's in the same place. Racing Point are a lot lower than we would expect, but of course they had a reserve driver racing, and we weren't expecting Ricciardo to be the main point scorer for the team. We did think it would be Dougie Falcons when Dougie was going to be racing full time. Now he's a reserve, so instead it's Yanni Tripkov, who I think is back this week. So we'll get to see what the Macedonian can do to try and find the Racing Points team's way back up the top end of the order. But it is, of course, McLaren and Red Bull at the very front, like we thought.
And with regards to Yanni Tripkov, he is racing today, jumping in the Haas. Actually, I'm not sure which car he's jumping in. He's jumping in a car. It might be the Racing Point, if I'm not mistaken. Now, Yanni has asked me to let everyone know that apparently he had issues with his Logitech wheel, so he's actually having to switch back over to a Thrustmaster. So he's getting in his excuses nice and early, but even with those excuses, we're expecting him to be around that kind of top 10 point.
Yeah, it should be at least top 10 here. It is a stronger field, a little bit stronger than what we saw last season, but Iceman was able, or Yanni Tripkov, sorry, was able to reach a new level in season 2 compared to season 1. Of course, it seems weird to say because season 1, the champion, season 2, only third in the standings, but it was against much stiffer competition and still managed to get third in the standings. So I'm expecting to see regular good point finishes from Yanni like we used to see.
And I want to switch on to a more positive note and look towards drivers that have outperformed at least our expectations. Because we put Riptide all the way down in the P20 for our power rankings, but he managed to get a top 10 finish, a P9. And I was very pleasantly surprised to see this. And it wasn't a stroke of luck either. He had pace all throughout the race and was able to secure that top 10 finish for the Ferrari team.
And there was even a point where we thought maybe Riptide was going to make it into Q3 as well. Did a good job in quali, did a good job in the race, and just plain old right there, slap bang in the middle of the field, and just a very good performance indeed. Hasn't been enough to bring Ferrari much higher up the order than we expected. They're currently sitting down in 8th, though we did predict them to be 10th. So it's doing a little bit of work for them. But yeah, Riptide can be very encouraged by that performance, and hopefully we'll see some more good stuff from the Swede here today as well.
And speaking of good stuff from the Swede, we decided that Riptide's been doing potentially a little bit too well in Premier X this season. So we thought, well, what could we possibly do to handicap him? How about remove his ability to see? Riptide was our very first Premier X contestant to take on the blindfolded hot lap challenge. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or I should probably just say hello, all of you wonderful viewers, and welcome to something a little bit new here on the Formula X Racing Challenge. As you can see towards the top of your screen, somewhere in that direction, it's a blindfold challenge. And we thought, well, I thought, I put Riptide down as being P20 in the power rankings. He did a little bit better than that in Australia. He got a top 10 finish. It was disgusting. So we thought, okay, we need to hamper him. We need to give him a handicap. And we thought blindfolding him would be the best way to do it. Riptide, how good are you at driving with your eyes closed?
I haven't practiced it a lot, if I'm honest, but I do rate myself.
Okay, you rate yourself. Well, we'll see how well you do. As our first contestant, Riptide, you have the privilege, the honor of selecting the circuit. So what circuit would you like to do the blindfold challenge at?
I mean, it's very tempting to go for this one. It's so tempting to go Monaco. It is really tempting.
I feel like I've just felt 12 weeks worth of pain just course through my body all in one go. I mean, it is your call. If you want to go with Monaco, we can. Please don't.
I won't. I will do you a very big favor and not go Monaco.
Okay.
But
I'm seeing hesitation over France.
Yes, because it will save you a lot of time.
Okay.
Being able to drive off track the entire time.
Yes. Okay, we've selected France. Okay, Riptide.
Yes.
Now, this is a blindfold challenge. How will you ensure to myself and all of our viewers that you are indeed blindfolded and that you can't see what's happening on circuit?
I mean, there are a lot of ways to go about it. I've got some shirts over there I could put on my head, but ultimately, I thought it would be more convincing that you can't see through it. Use some tape.
Oh, good old duct tape.
Why not?
I like this. Right, so, Riptide.
Oh, God.
Now, a lap here at France is usually, what, around 120-something, 130s? What kind of lap do you think you can pull out?
I can do it in less than 5 minutes.
Less than 5 minutes, okay.
Less than 5 minutes.
I can't tell if this is, you know, a high standard or a low standard. Okay, I do have to also say, we are at France. No excessive corner cutting, right?
God damn it. Okay, fine.
Yeah?
Fine. I'll do my best.
Okay, right. Tape yourself up, Riptide.
I will tape myself up.
Let's go. We are using default setup. We don't want you to be having that
the massive advantage of having a custom setup.
Honestly, that tape is amazing. You could be a superhero with that tape. You could just call yourself Tape Man. You just shoot out like Spider-Man, but tape. I don't know.
What is it?
Okay.
The movie, the Bird Box.
Bird Box. Okay,
Yeah.
wait, Riptide. I just need to check. How many fingers am I holding up?
420.
Close, but no. Okay, I think you're definitely blindfolded, and
Yes.
I think you're ready to go. So you need to press your number 6 button to go to circuit.
That's that one, and it's that one again.
Right, here we go then, to start a hot lap. Are you ready, Riptide? Well,
Yes.
it doesn't matter. Turn to the right a bit.
Where are
Okay,
we?
back to the
Where
left.
are we?
We're through that long right-hander that leads into
Okay.
turn 13. Okay, we're like accelerating on a wall now. Okay, there we go. Okay, we're moving forward. Turn to the right a bit. No, that's left. Okay, there we go. Straight. Yes, this is good. This is good. Just stay at this line. You're destroying all the boards. Okay, turn to the left a bit. More left, more left. We're in like the penultimate corner right now.
All right.
You're still going
all right.
straight. Left, 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 left. Okay, straighten up, straighten up, straighten up. Bit. Okay. Yeah, just go straight. Just go straight for a bit. Okay, right now. We're going into the final corner with a really wide angle. Okay, straight. No, you turn too much. Okay, turn right. Spin it around to the right. Spin it around to the right. Okay, there we go. We're facing the right direction. We're about to go into the final corner, and we're actually on circuit. Turn to the left a bit. Left. Okay, right, straight. Right. Okay.
What gear am I in?
Straight. Okay, you're in second. Turn to the left. Left. Okay, right. Okay, okay, reverse. We haven't started our lap yet. It's all okay. It's all okay. Right, okay. There we go. We're on the start-finish straight. We are ready to start our lap. This is where it all now counts.
Are we aiming in the right direction?
We are. Okay, you probably want to aim the car a bit to the right. Okay, straight. A bit to the left. Okay, there we go. That's it. Go, Riptide. Go. Right. Bit to the left now. Okay, straight. Okay, this is good. Bit to the right. We've invalidated our lap. It's fine. Let's keep going. Okay, a little bit to the left. Get ready to brake. Brake. Okay, left. Okay, this is perfect. Right. Turn 2. More to the right. Okay, straight. No, bit to the left now. Okay, more to the left. Okay, this is good. Bit to the right now. It's just always bit right, bit left, bit right. Okay. Turn 3 coming up. Turn 3 coming up. Right. Okay, left. Okay, right. We've got all the way. Okay, you need to reverse.
Oh, if I hit the wall in France.
Okay, stop. Okay, right. We're making our way into that really tight right-hander now. Okay, straighten. Okay, we've cut through it. I like this. Okay, turn right. More right. Okay, straighten up. Okay, there we go. Keep going. Right. Right, we're back on the track. Okay, left. Okay, we hit a wall. Okay, stop. Okay, to the left a bit. Okay, straight. No. Okay, too much to the right. Oh, too much. Yeah, that's it. Keep going. Left. Left more. Okay, that's good. Bit to the right. Every time I say right, you swing to the left instinctively. Right, keep going. We're on the back straight. To the right a bit. Okay, that's a good angle. Just keep it straight. Wait, it's pulling us to the left, to the right, to the right. Brake, 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 brake. Okay, left. Oh, you nailed that corner. Okay, we turned a bit too much to the left. Yeah, right. Okay, this is good. This is fine. Right, okay, keep going straight. We're coming to that little kink at the end of the bus stop chicane. Oh, this is perfect. Right, I'm enjoying this. This is a nice roll. We're just gonna ride on the wall. This helps us keep going in the right direction. Let's keep going. Turn 10 coming up. Right, turn right. More right, more right, more right. Okay, that's it. Right direction. More to the right. More to the right. You keep turning left every time I say right, 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 right. Okay, straight. Okay, to the left a bit. To the left a bit. Okay, no, keep going straight. Keep going straight. We avoided the wall. We bounced off the wall. Okay, to the right, to the right, to the right, to the right. Turn right. More right. Okay, straighten up the car. Okay, get ready to turn left. No, that's a wall. Reverse, reverse, reverse. Okay, left. We're in sector 3. We're in sector 3. Good. Left, 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 left. Okay, straighten up the car, straighten up the car. Okay, this is good. Turn right a little bit. There we go. This is the long right-hander. We've almost finished the lap. I think we can do 2 laps. Right, keep turning right. Right, 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 right. Slow down, slow down. Stop, 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 stop. Left. You're in neutral, you're in neutral. No, you turned too much left. Spin it around, spin it around. Okay, go straight and turn left. Okay, stop, 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 stop. Okay, left. You need to do like 90, 100 degrees. There we go, that's the right direction. Okay, go. Go straight for like 3 seconds. And then turn right, final corner. Stop. There we go. Okay, straight. No, okay, bit to the left, bit to the left. Okay, go, 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 go. We're going to do some 4 minutes Riptide. Wait. There we go. It's a 3:57.9.
Yes. Success.
So, how did the blindfold challenge feel? Oh, this is going to be painful. Your face looks a bit red.
Yeah, I wonder why. I'm sweating so much. Oh god.
So how stressful was that?
Just feeling that you hit a wall and you just laughing doesn't help out a lot.
Okay, now that we've completed this, I think we'll add just a regular interview. So I want you to do a normal lap here at front, so you can restart your lap. Well, I think Riptide successfully completed the challenge, Jacob. Do you think... Apparently, he has nominated Labrax to do the second round. So, I know in the race anyway, Riptide was able to beat Labrax last time out. True. Do you think he's going to be able to beat Labrax in terms of the challenge?
I mean, maybe. The trouble is going first. You're plumbing new waters, right? Like, you're going to get better as a navigator as things go on, surely. So Labrax is going to have a little bit of an advantage. I mean, you can't get worse, to be honest. So, you know.
It was a pretty bad first showing for me. I will admit that. Mm-hmm. And
I will agree.
Honestly, I like pushing the boundaries, so I will try to find a way to become even worse.
Okay. Well, maybe in that case, no. This time is unbeatable. Riptide has done a fantastic job. If you're going to start actually inting, then I think we can safely say that Riptide is going to be sitting near the top for quite a while.
I'm just going to stay silent and just see how the drivers do trying to memorize the track by themselves. But speaking of tracks, we have a track on our lefts, but on the screens right to us. And it's Sao Paulo, Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache. And it's a very beautiful track. Do you like it, Jacob?
I don't like it that much. I like watching it. I don't like driving it. I'm not a fan of it to drive. A lot of drivers do like it. A lot of people do like it. It's got a lot of history. It's a lot of legendary moments. But yeah, for me, it just doesn't do it in terms of a track to drive. There's a couple of corners that I really hate Bico de Pato. Turn 10. I just cannot stand it. I don't know why. But I can't get it right. And no matter what I do, I take all different lines and they're all just wrong. So for that reason, it's a no from me. But yeah, no, I mean, lots of drivers do like it. And to be fair, the racing's usually good, which is all I care about mainly as a commentator anyway.
I do kind of side with you in that. For some reason, I was the same as you. I kind of always disliked Brazil driving on it anyway. I know a lot of the drivers I spoke to were really, really fond of the Brazilian track. But after I kind of did the track analysis video, I kind of grew to like it a little bit more, and I started taking some corners a bit better, specifically Bico de Pato. I don't know why. It's just all of a sudden it just clicks, and then it's like when you study for your GCSEs, it clicks, and you're like, oh yeah. I get that now. And then you forget it a few months later. But
Yeah.
let's talk about the track on a more serious note, because we've already mentioned those overtaking zones of turn 1 and turn 4.
Yeah, those are the primary overtaking spots, and pretty much kind of the only. I mean, potentially, if someone makes a mistake through turns 4 and 5, you might get someone up the inside of Ferradura, turn 6, but that's always very, very hairy to say the least. It's a very fast right-hander with not really anything of a braking zone, so to speak of. And maybe you could see someone trying to set up a move in turn 12, the final proper corner of the circuit, which is Junção. But I still don't think so, because the trouble with making a move there is you're just going to get slipstream straight back by the other guy. That you can see the DRS detection point there is a little bit up the straight. So if you're ahead at that point, you don't really want to be ahead at that point if you're in direct wheel-to-wheel competition with another driver. So making the move into turn 12 tends not to make very much sense. It's better to be patient and wait for turn 1.
Now, one other overtaking spot that does exist, as discovered by our D2 winner, Willie Gibson, was a dive down into turn 10, which, when Vexit saw with his own eyes, said that is a beautiful dive bomb. So maybe Vexit will be taking some tips from the Division 2 winner and dropping some dive bombs down into turn 10, maybe even seeing some dives into 8.
Well, maybe, but if you think back, cast your mind back to 2019 real life, that is where the first Lewis Hamilton Alex Albon moment happened, was one of those moves down the inside of turn 10. And yeah, that one didn't end so well for the Red Bull driver on that occasion. Admittedly, it was the Mercedes driver making the move, but nevertheless, Vexit might want to steer clear of that one. The trouble is, it tightens so much, and it's not a very wide road in that part. So there's not so much space, and the car at the inside has a much more aggressive angle to deal with than the car on the outside. It's a bit like turn 1 in Bahrain in that way. So yeah, it often is a bit of a crash factor if you go for moves there.
See, Jacob is a man of sense. Me, I'm just like, send it and deal with those hurdles afterwards. Let's also talk a little bit about tire strategies, because Brazil, we're probably going to be expecting to see the softs onto mediums, but an early safety car could potentially throw all of that down the drain.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, we saw different tire strategies coming out from what we were expecting, from what other drivers were expecting in Australia. And the safety cars do make a big difference in that regard as well. So we may well see something just totally out there. It's very hard to predict, to be honest.
Is hard to predict, and I know the hard tires can go quite a long way, probably about 25, maybe even bordering on to 30 laps. 36 lap race, as we are doing a 50% race here at Brazil. And Jacob, I know this is a bit early, but who do you kind of have your money on? Who is your eyes looking towards to be securing the win for today?
I mean, I can't say anyone other than Christian Sendel. The race in Australia was just so good from him, really well judged. I don't think we're going to see routinely gaps as big as that. I think it's going to be very rare that we see gaps as big as that at the front of the field. But if he can win by 15 seconds, you kind of got to back the guy, really.
I'm going to stick with Jan Fehler, because I think there was an element, maybe a lack of preparation from Jan Fehler. We heard from him in the interview post-race that he just kind of mind farted and just didn't think of going onto the hard tires to the end or switching up his strategy. And as we say that, we are actually in for the first session of qualifying. Jacob, take us away.
Indeed, we're here with Ollie P on the outlap here for the first session of qualifying of Formula X Racing's Premier X Division Season 3 Round 2, the Brazilian Grand Prix, as we see this AlphaTauri just slowly warming up the tires, or rather trying to avoid the tires getting too warm on this outlap, as there is Bico de Pato, the corner we've been discussing so much and our hatred for it. But yeah, it's a nice short lap, this one, so Ollie's outlap will be over in just a tick here. And right now, this is the point where we have to gun it in preparation for the very first qualifying lap of the session.
And it's important to take a nice wide run all the way through, you know, build up as much momentum as you can without scrubbing off at any time. Keep the car over to the right to start your lap. And I mean, we are in the first session of qualifying, so we're probably not going to be seeing anything, you know, excessively fast. Maybe going to be seeing drivers making their way into those mid 106s for that kind of a cutoff. So.
Yeah, of course, it's all about getting into the top 15 here, as we do have 20 drivers on the grid here today. One of them, a reserve driver, I believe, in the form of Luca Ing, here driving for Renault in place of Ice Looper, who couldn't make it today. But we do have Zay here, and we do have Jane Tripkov as well. So 19 of our regular drivers, one reserve, and a nice full field, meaning we're going to have a very competitive Q1. And we may well see a surprise dropping out in Q1, just like we saw with Sandro last time out.
Sandro dropping out in Q1 back in Australia was pretty much the surprise of the session. We'll see whether we do have another surprise, and maybe, to be honest, I think if Riptide got knocked out in Q1, that would be the surprise now, having seen his pace back in the opening session, as Ollie will complete his first lap, 107.1, a decent banker lap time for the AlphaTauri driver.
Yeah, not too bad at all. We'll get a bit more context on that once Zola and Jane Tripkov come across the line. Here is the Macedonian, who doesn't go anywhere near as fast as Ollie there. So back on the Thrustmaster wheel, that first lap not working out too well for Jane, but still plenty of time to improve with 14 minutes remaining in this qualifying session. Zola splits the two of them, but closer to Ollie's lap time with a 107.378. So on the first couple of attempts here, Ollie's lap time is standing up to scrutiny pretty well.
107.1 looking better and better as more and more laps come through. Kex Ricardo, the only man who is on and out lappers. Most of the drivers just sitting in the pits and maybe just trying to save a set of tires. Who knows what the strategies and the safety cars could bring out into play once the race does begin.
So let's stick on board then with KX Ricardo being the only one on a proper flying lap here. The racing point into turn one. A little bit of understeer on the apex, ran a touch wide, but it's very smooth through 2 and 3. So that was kind of recovered nicely there. And now you get a straight run down Desquito del Lago to turn 4 here. There we go. Here is Desquito del Lago, and running a bit too wide on the exit, actually getting out of the throttle. That evaded the track limits warning and thus the invalidation, but it will have cost a significant amount of time being off throttle when you really need to be on throttle through there. And in fact, KX Ricardo does back out of the lap after another twitch into Ferradura.
Smart choice from Ricardo. Might have enough fuel to be able to go out for a second lap. The critical thing is with a Q1, you don't have to keep those tires for the remainder of the session or the race like you would in Q2. As Hammer has started his lap, the man who qualified P12 for the opening race and finished the race in P7. We expected strong things for him for Season 3 of the championship.
Yeah, the qualifying down in 12th was disappointing for the AlphaTauri driver, but he made up for it when it came to the race itself by doing a strong contra-strategy drive to manage 7th place come the checkered flag. Could have potentially been better had the qualifying been smoother, but nevertheless the pace was there. Just too much of a cut on the inside there of turn 8, and as a result that is going to be the invalidation for Hammer, so we're going to have to wait. Going to have to go around again. Luckily, because it's such a short lap, he won't have picked up too much tyre wear, so probably can just go again on the same set of tyres.
Most likely will be able to, as I think that's Marinkello getting out of the way. He's about to start his hot lap, but through turn 8 and turn 11, you do have to use as much curb as you can just to be able to open up the steering line of least resistance and all of that hoo-ha. And, well, we saw Hammer try it, but did it unsuccessfully. Let's see if Marinkello can do it somewhat better as he starts his first hot lap of the session.
Indeed. So the Haas driver, very cautious in the first part of the center S's there, and then very aggressive in the second, is now going all the way over to the left-hand side through turn 3 onto this straight. Now turn 4 coming up, left-hander, flick it in. That looks a bit sort of heavy, a bit sort of labored. Maybe scrubbing off a bit too much speed in the braking zone there for Marinkello. It's looking very cautious thus far after that twitch through turn 2. Not quite the perfect line through Ferradura either, but it doesn't matter too much. And that's going to be okay. Now, Pinheirino, very tricky corner. You got to wait for ages on the throttle on the exit. Otherwise, you get a kick of oversteer just like that. And Marankello's counter steer was too strong for the car, sent him into the grass, and as a result, he's had to back out of his lap as well.
So we're seeing a lot of invalidations, a lot of mistakes coming through, and Marankello, as you mentioned, that mistake in the first sequence of corner would have thrown him off. It's so easy to do, you know. You take things a little bit too cautious into one corner, and then you try to get too aggressive, and then instantly you get too aggressive, you lose the back end, and it compromises your lap time. Still only have 5 laps through so far. Hamo the quickest with that 106.7. And to be honest, I'm expecting that kind of cutoff at time around at P16 to be at around that kind of 106.7 mark. So expect the times to really drop down.
Yeah, plenty of drivers still waiting in the pits as well. Very, very cagey opening to this qualifying session. Lots of drivers playing the cards very close to their chest for the time being. They don't want to be using too many sets of those soft tires too early on. Here is Peso, the first of the really front-running drivers to be going out there in qualifying. And right now, the lap's looking okay through Sector 1, taking a lot of curb there through Ferradura, but that's okay. Didn't pick up an invalidation, which is all that really matters through there. There's an AlphaTauri just up ahead, a little bit slow on circuit. That's going to be Hamo, who is currently sitting at the top of the standings, but hopefully he will be able to get well out of Peso's way by the time a Czech driver comes up to his rear. And in fact, there you can see him doing exactly that. Now it's just Junkao, and that's pretty much it for the lap of Interlagos. Peso turning in nicely, and again, very easy on the throttle, using the exact right amount of road. This looks like a decent lap from the Williams, as he's now just got to wait for the line to come.
Let's see what Peso can pull through. He got a good qualifying result back in Australia, and it is the 106.6, just ahead of Hamo. And I think that might be enough for the remainder of Q1. That being said, he's probably going to be eagle-eyed, or I should say beady-eyed, looking at the timing. Cameron Cooper, he's invalidated his lap time, not what he would have wanted. And now we start to see all of the drivers beating their way out of the pits to begin their, well, for a lot of drivers, their first hot laps of the session.
Any Mercedes teamwork fans here? A bit of a slipstream being given by Cameron Cooper to Connor Eddy as we're heading up towards the line. This is going to help the lap time of Connor here. As for where is it going to put him? It's only good enough for third, a 107.174, just ahead of Ollie P's time, but that might not be safe come the end of this session.
Good stuff from Connor Eddy, a 107.1. That 1/10 or so might be enough. We'll have to see again how quick everyone can go. I think we saw in Division 2 pole coming through at around about I want to say a 106.8. I think in Division 1 we saw a 106.5 from Risky. So, Zay.
Cameron. Okay, there was a lot of traffic going through there as Zay was on a flying lap looking to try and get through Ferradura. And Cameron Cooper was dawdling on the racing line there, didn't realize the Ferrari coming up was at full speed. And as a result, Zay's lap has been brought to a blocking incident in qualifying there. Not something you see all that often. And that's going to be very frustrating for Zay in their first race here in Premier X.
And remember, Zay was not racing last time out in Australia. This is his debut race in Formula X racing, and not off to a good start. Obviously, no fault of his own on the run into Ferradura. That might be a report going against Cameron Cooper at the end of the race. And Zay will have to go for round 2. Still got 7 minutes in the session, so plenty of time to put in a representative lap time.
Riptide's just set a lap, and it's only a 107.8, so that's not ideal, but was able to give a bit of a slipstream to the Ferrari teammate as Zay is going once again, and we'll get another slipstream here on the run down to turn 4. Once again, there's lots of traffic out here. This is a sort of byproduct of everyone leaving it out there for a very long time. Here is Zay now unobstructed through Sector 1 this time around. It's currently Peso, Hamo, and Sandro as the top 3. So Sandro is looking much more on form with that 106.982, probably not going to be descending out of Q1. And Zay runs wide through turn 7, and as a result, picks up that invalidation. So this is really starting to get hairy now for the Ferrari drivers. Christian Sendel goes to the top with Jan Fehler a 10.5 behind in 4th.
This is where we start to see the big names coming through, the likes of Christian Sendel, Jan Fehler, still waiting for Vexit and Vallu to complete their lap times as we ride on board then with Vallu, who is about to complete his lap. he makes his way along the start-finish straight. Will be wanting to get well into the 106s, and it's 106.5, jumps him ahead of Christian Sendel by a couple of hundredths of a second.
Nicely done there, and it is looking like those lap times that the likes of Hamo, Peso, Connor even, that they set earlier, those lap times aren't looking so bad now that we've seen Vallu, Christian Sendel, Jan Fehler all go in and around that sort of mid-106s mark. So they'll be feeling pretty good about their laps for the time being. Lars Algera sitting there in 9th. He's potentially on the bubble as his teammate Jeffrey Ritchie joins that gaggle of cars in the mid-106s with a 106.671. Here is Vexit, who has hopefully renamed himself to Brexit going into the top, but that is Vexit, the Red Bull driver, who obviously backed out of that lap sometime through, because it's a 1:13.3. So this is the first proper flying lap attempt now from the Englishman.
And let's see what Vexit can pull through. Vallu currently at the top of the standings, and Vexit won't want to be too far behind, so we'd be expecting at least a 106.7 from the Englishman. We've still got a few other names that do come through. We know Luca is usually very quick. Remember, he was racing back in Season 2, teammates with Jani Tripkov in the Haas, so he should be in the top of 10. Cameron Cooper and Labrox, maybe they'll also be towards that midfield, bordering into the top 10 spots.
Peso's decided that that's enough of this qualifying session, retiring in the pit lane as the order shuffled once again. That's Labrax moving up into 5th. Good lap time from the Renault driver. That should be enough for the Belgian to be guaranteed a spot in the next, the Dutchman, I should say. Jeffrey Ritchie unwillingly giving Vexit a bit of a tow here, or maybe willingly, can't say for sure. As up towards the line comes Vexit, and that is easily good enough for the top spot. A whole 3/10 quicker. With so many fast drivers in and about the same point, I'm very surprised to see Vexit finding that much time over and above the rest of the field.
I'll be honest with you, Jacob, I was not expecting those lap times to be coming through either until the very end of Q2 or the start of Q3. That's a strong lap from Vexit, and he's putting down his marker very early on in qualifying. Let's see where Jani Tripkov can pull through. Currently on that 107.9, running with a new steering wheel. And obviously that is a sim racing steering wheel. The wheel on the car itself hasn't changed. Will this be enough for the Macedonian? 107.3. It's an improvement, but not by enough. He should have enough time to jump into the pits and head back out.
Just about has enough time, yeah, but Jani Tripkov really struggling on this current setup. Also, obviously, hasn't been able to race for a little while, wasn't able to race last weekend, might be a little bit out of practice, a little bit rusty, given the issues that he's been having with various wheels recently, but down in 19th right now. That lap time was respectable. It brings him within range of the rest of the field. It was an improvement of 0.6 of a second. It wasn't enough to actually gain any positions. Only sitting ahead of Cameron Cooper at the moment, who is struggling to get a lap strung together here in qualifying. KX Ricardo also on an out lap here. Ollie P, Connor Eddy, these guys, they know they aren't safe right now, so they're all heading out onto track. Luca sitting there in 16th, Marinkello in 18th. They'll both be out on track in just a moment's time. Even the likes of Lars Algera, Zola, maybe even Zay, I'd be wanting to get back out there if I were there.
Zay putting in a decent time, that 107.0, after having invalidated his first couple of laps. But let's see if he does have more available. Connor Eddy on a lap. Ricardo about to start his lap. Bit of a kick of oversteer for Ricardo on the exit off the final corner. And it's never a good feeling. Just when you're about to start your lap and you need all the confidence you can just to get that little moment right before you begin.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to help the state of the rear tyres either, which is very important to keep those in a good place throughout the lap. As Ricardo into turn 1. Aggressive through 2 with the curving. That's exactly what you need to be to get the fastest sort of time in that first sector. As now we're heading up towards turn 4. And, bit of a lockup. That wasn't ideal for Ricardo. The lockup definitely affected the turn-in of the car there. And that will have just cost maybe a 10th, maybe half a 10th, something like that through Ferradura. Plenty of commitment and using all the road. Generally indicative of using as much speed as possible through there. Into Pinheirino, just keeping it tight to the left-hand side, unwinding the steering as the throttle gets applied there, and a bit of a moment under traction, but it's very common to see through there. Bico de Pato not exactly perfect either, as the rear end of this racing point isn't really very planted right now for Ricardo, as we head into the final corner. Taking a little bit of curb on the inside, didn't seem to unsettle the car, as that was a very smooth run through Junção. And now we just keep it flat, keep as close to the left-hand side as possible for the shortest possible run up towards the line. Ricardo doesn't improve, a 10th.5 down.
A lot of understeer coming through from the racing point on that lap. A lot of apexes miss. What about Marankello, though? He's only 3 thousandths down on Ricardo from his previous best time. Needs to be able to find about 500ths of a second to make it into Q2. And that is a good enough lap for Marankello. 106.9 up to P11.
Yeah, that puts Zola's lap in a bit of context there. Riptide's just headed out on an outlap in the Ferrari. I don't know how wrong the timer is, because it usually tends to be wrong as Yane Tripkov invalidates, but it's the outlap. Hopefully that's not an invalidation for the next flying lap as well. I don't think it should be on that part of the track. But right now, seeing Yane down there in 19th is a bit of a shock. But we do have some reasons for Yane to maybe not be on prime form. There's plenty of drivers out there now looking to improve. Lars Algera, currently the driver on the bubble in 15th.
Yeah, Cameron Cooper also not having a good showing. So if I qualified P18 in Australia, so maybe that pace is understandable. And he's just pumping out some laps on a set of soft tires. Currently done 3 laps on them. Yane Tripkov, 1/10 up at the end of Sector 1. And that 1/10 might be enough to squeeze him into the second qualifying session.
I tell you what, he was playing with fire midway through turn 4, turn 5 there, running right to the edge of the road without going over that white line, but only just. Very, very close stuff. Oh, that was a rough turn in here for Pinheiro, but the front of the car very responsive. The rear living with it just about on the exit of Pinheiro. That was all okay as well. Vico de Pato looked pretty smooth. Maybe not quite getting as much purchase on the front end as he would like, but nevertheless, this all looks okay from Yane Tripkov at this stage. So Zola, currently sitting in 15th, will not be able to set another lap time, nor will Riptide and Zaya. How much improvement are we going to see from the rest of these drivers who are out there right now? Yane Tripkov, coming up towards the line, needs to improve significantly and does find it up to 15th for now. But here comes Lars Algera. Jeffrey Ritchie's out here just to give Lars a slipstream. Jeffrey Ritchie doesn't need to be out here. He's comfortably through, but he gives Lars the slipstream, and that is enough. Lars Algera, the Canadian, up into 11th, will make it safely through to Q2. And with that, Yane Tripkov is out, so is Zola. Connor Eddy makes it through, moving Luca down into the drop zone for the time being. Riptide and Zay didn't get back out there to set new lap times, and they might be regretting that right now, as the Renault and a Racing Point and Cameron Cooper as well are still able to improve potentially.
The 2 VRT drivers are getting knocked out. We'll see if Luca can pull anything else through. Ricardo unable to improve on his 3-lap old soft tires. So it's all just now on Luca. Can he find more time in the Renault? I don't think he can. No, he's 12 seconds down. Both VRT drivers out. And, I mean, you said it, Jacob. We might be seeing a surprise once again. And I think that's our surprise. Luca and Yane Tripkov knocked out in Q1.
Yeah, wow, that is stunning to see both of those guys out. Yane Tripkov in particular, someone we're so used to being up there, at least in the top 10, so consistently usually as well. But poor qualifying for the Macedonian, and Luca just narrowly ahead of him, but both of them out in Q1.
Yeah, and well, I think there's some issues with the car. Mechanic's hands kind of going through the bodywork slightly, but that's Q1 done and dusted. Sidemax Motorsports at the top end. Red Bull dominating 106.2 for Vexit, but once we get to Q3, we're expecting those pole times to be around the 106 dead. Very close, though, around that cutoff point. You're talking about Riptide on that 106.9. Actually, Marankello on a 106.9. Just a 10th all the way down to Yane Tripkov in 17th.
Yeah, whole field within 1.1 seconds or thereabouts of one another there. Very, very close stuff in qualifying. Riptide and Zay, the 2 Ferraris, both just squeaking through, as Luca and Yane Tripkov weren't able to knock them out. Zola will be disappointed to go out as well. But yeah, one has 2 racing points, a Renault, stand-in in the Renault to be fair, and also a Mercedes going out. Both Ferraris making it through. That is a surprise and a positive one for that team.
Yeah. And I think, you know what? It's a time to create a new bet on the Twitch stream.
Okay.
What should we make people give their channel points for?
What could we? I mean, I guess we could ask, are we going to see a 106.1 in this session? Potentially. Because we saw a 106.2 in that last session. I don't know. What do you think of that?
Here's the thing. We're already seeing some mediums being put on. So I have a feeling that the likes of it could affect the integrity of the channel points. Who do you think is a fan favorite driver that we could put people's heartstrings on the line for and make them vote on whether we think they'll be knocked out or not?
Should we go for Sandro on that one? I think maybe Sandro might be one, because he's one who, it could be, it could not be. He looked pretty good in Q1 there, but he did struggle last time out in Australia.
I think Sandro is a good shout. We could also be putting in our blindfold contestant of Riptide. Remember, he was right around the bubble back in Australia, and I think he actually held a little bit back so that he could start with that alternate strategy. So, should we leave it to production? Riptide or Sandro? Who do you vote for? Wait, Jacob, did production just agree with me? Did production just side with me?
I think he might have done, actually, yeah. That's
Hang on, it's not April the 1st, right?
Not quite anymore, no. I think you're safe.
Cool. Okay, so, ladies and gents, there should be something popping up on your stream shortly. Let us know whether you think Riptide will be making it through into the final session of qualifying or not. Usually do see quite a few big channel points are coming through on these bets, but we'll have to see. So, Jacob, who do you think will be failing to make the cut for the final session?
Which drivers are going to fail to make the cut? I think we're going to see both Ferraris going out here, in my opinion. I think we will see Maranello going out as well, so that's 3 of them. I think Connor Eddy might be one of them.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to tell. The guys on the mediums, I think they're all going to be okay. I mean, Sandro, I don't think will be able to get through on mediums, but still just sitting in the pits right now, so not really committing to that. So I'm going to say we got Zay, Riptide, Maranello, Connor Eddy, and Ollie P are going to be the 5 knocked out here.
Okay, I'm going to go with... I'm going to go with Sandro. I'm going to say Ollie P. I'm going to say Zay. That's 3. Lars Algera and Maranello.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
I think Lars is a crazy prediction from me, but I don't know. Something feels off today about Lars.
Based on Q1, it makes sense. He got a very big, generous slipstream at the very end when the track was at its fastest in that Q1 session. Still only managed to pop up into 12th there at the very end. I mean, it was enough to get through, and that was what was important then. But, it does suggest maybe the ultimate pace might not be there for Lars, as Zay goes in comfortably to the 106s there. A 106.787. That's a bit of a step up from where we saw the Ferrari in Q1. Vexit's going to come across the line here, but has had to back out of the lap due to an invalidation, so we can ignore that lap time. But Vexit will probably be going again here, or I don't know, maybe just getting a bit of a delta down before going back into the pits, because you don't really want to start the race on a set of tyres you've had to do multiple qualifying laps on.
Precisely so, and that's why it's always helpful to go out on a set of softs and get just a somewhat representative time, just so that when you're putting in your lap, you can see your delta to that invalidated lap, and you've got an idea of whether you need to push more, and it just gives you almost a confidence boost. Maranello, purple at the end of Sector 1, and I think that may very well be true. We'll see how far down into the 106s the Italian can go.
Yeah, half Italian, half Brazilian, by the way, as well, unless I'm very much mistaken. So something of a home race for Maranello here in the Haas. And pushing through Sector 2 for the time being into Pico de Pato, not actually opening up the line on the entry to that corner as much as some other drivers might have done. So maybe leaving a little bit on the table there. And again, not breaking over that grasscrete on the right-hand side into the final proper corner, Junção. Again, that's just costing you maybe a 10th every time you don't do that. And the mistake on the exit of Junção as well, with a bit of a kick out of the rear. So I think this hasn't been a great end to the lap for Maranello. And indeed, it's only in the 107s. A 107.03.
As you mentioned, scruffy in the final couple of sectors for Maranello. And he definitely has a time on the table. We'll have to see whether he can find it over the remainder of qualifying. Let's see what Labrux can pull through. Qualified P10 last time out in Australia, so was able to make it through into Q3. Gets a very nice liner down into the Descida del Lago. That's what you're aiming to do, taking that much curb as you make your way into Ferradura, 6th gear. And honestly, the lines from Labrux are spot on. The question is he carrying enough speed?
Yeah, long time out of the throttle there with just no engine noise whatsoever, no braking, no throttle twice there, both through turns 7 and 8. And again, a little bit of the same sort of story. So a very calm driving style, allowing the car just to slow itself down on the apex of the corners and not trying to be one of those guys who always has to be either on the throttle or on the brakes. You see quite a different driving style from a lot of drivers who don't like to just let both the pedals go for a little bit. But Labrax opting for that general direction halfway through the lap and up towards the line now for Labrax. It has paid off. That is a 106.5, comfortably faster than Conradi Zay and Marin Kello have been able to go thus far.
A fantastic opening couple of sectors coming through from Labrax, 106.5. Sandro starting his second lap. And Peso's going to pick up a nice slipstream from Ollie P. Does have to kind of move out of his line in order to pick it up. And I didn't actually quite see what that Sector 1 Delta time was, or what the Sector 1 time was, but we'll have to wait and see what the Sector 2 time is.
Yeah, it didn't look perfect through Ferradura here either, but I think that's still just about okay. He'll keep pushing on the lap wheel pacer, as only 5 drivers have set lap times thus far. It's Labrax, Hamo, Conradi, Zay, and Marin Kello at the moment. And we expect at least 2 of those drivers to potentially be under threat of going out here in qualifying 2. However, lots of drivers also thinking about getting out there on the mediums now, and some of them already out on circuit as well. Peso not going in that direction, interestingly enough, is still just opting for those soft tires all the way through this lap. And it will be a perfectly representative lap time here once the Czech driver comes across the line. And it's a 106.614, so not able to knock Labrax off the top spot, interestingly enough.
HMW P2 and P3. Honestly, Labrax was just spot on with some of his lines through the corners, and it's just so hard to get right at times. And we'll see whether Peso can pick up the pace as Christian Sendel, rather unsurprisingly, Jacob, is purple at the end of Sector 2.
You see, rather unsurprisingly, this is on medium tyres, to be fair, so I'm still a little bit surprised, but nevertheless, Christian Sendel, a very strong driver indeed. And as he crosses the line, there you go. So the purples were lying to us. Only a 107.030. So it's going to have to rely on several other drivers committing to medium lap times and going slower, because right now that doesn't look like it's enough to get through on those mediums.
It does not look like it enough for Jacob, and even if that was his lap time in Q1, that wouldn't have put him through into the top 10. So I think Christian Sendel's going to have to go out again on a set of softer tyres, whether he wants to qualify somewhere down in P11 and maybe have the alternate strategy advantage. We'll have to see, but remember, points are on offer for securing pole position. Solly P will cross the line 107.2. Maybe Christian Sendel starting to look a little safer.
Yeah, that lap time not really good enough there from OEP. A couple of tenths down on Marin Kello, who himself is about 3 tenths, or at least 2 tenths, closer to 3 tenths really, away from the rest of the soft tyre runners. So both Marin Kello and Ollie P, disappointing performances thus far in this qualifying session. They will need to step up their game if they have any hope of making it into the third part of qualifying, as Vallu is just warming up the brakes there a little bit, maybe warming up the front tyres as well with that lock-up before heading into Junção here to start the next flying lap on this set of mediums. Actually, I know what he's doing. He's waiting to give a slipstream to his teammate. Vexit's coming up just behind, and he's actually backed out of his lap, but he's going to be starting his flying lap now, and he's going to get a slingshot down the straight with the slipstream from Vallu.
Let's see then no. He refuses. He says, I see what you're doing, Vallu, but I do not want it. I want to get my lap nice and cleanly. And, well, we'll see whether that is enough, because he's on those medium tyres. And, that's a big moment. Thankfully, he catches it. Otherwise, he could have ended up in the wall, losing a wheel, and that would have knocked him out of qualifying.
Yeah, indeed. So that's a bit of miscommunication maybe from the Red Bull drivers there. Vallu is now able to actually get a slipstream off of Vexit after all on the run down to Desquita del Lago, but now we'll just have dirty air throughout the remainder of the lap. I'm not really sure exactly what they're trying to do, but it's not really working for them for the time being.
I think we need the circus music to start playing right now, Jacob. The Red Bulls are doing some interesting things here in the second qualifying session. Just taking a look, Jacob, you know how we thought, McLaren was a close team? I didn't realize it was this close.
Yeah, they have gone for identical times there in 6th and 7th, which shows us that that's probably what we can expect from guys on medium tyres. If they're both at that level, and we know how quick both of those drivers are, then yeah, maybe we can't expect much more from the medium tire runners. So Vexit and Vallu, they're still just circulating, doing not very much.
Warming up their tires.
Yeah, I mean, Vallu invalidated that last lap. That's something we're relatively used to seeing. Vexit wasn't pushing on that lap, so he's going to have to be pushing on this lap. We're getting pretty close to the end of Q2 now, so they're going to have to get their act together soon, and that is not getting your act together at all into turn one.
Into the pits at the end of this lap.
Yeah,
sure.
It's an invalidation. Surely he's got to go for soft tires now, so that's not going to help Vexit at all. Crumbling here in Q2, really. There's no other word for it. This has been a bit of a disaster class from the Red Bulls.
Yep, Vex does have time to jump into the pits, head back on out on a fresh set of soft tires. Vallu putting in a decent opening sector, was up on his previous best time. That I would imagine, or that was actually set on these mediums, if I am not mistaken. So Vexit's going to be starting on the soft tires in the race, and let's see whether Vallu can make it through into Q3 on this set of medium tires. Just Junkao remaining, and it's a 50.5 at the end of the sector. And that is about 0.8 down. So this is going to be around a 106.9, I think, for the Finn.
106.9 would be very, very good news indeed. That would pop him ahead of those two McLarens on the same set of tyres. In fact, it's a 106.8. So after all that, it turns out to be a nice lap from Vallu in the end. Unfortunately, Vexit has had to dive back into the pits. So it works out well for one of the Red Bulls and not from the other. Here's Lars Algera, yet to set a lap time in this qualifying session, along with his teammate Jeffrey Ritchie and Riptide as well. All of them sitting there without a lap time set at the very bottom of the order. And that's not good news for those of you who voted for Riptide to get through to Q3, because unless the Ferrari driver leaves the pits soon, that's going to be looking pretty hairy.
And Lars Algera, this is pretty much his only shot that he will have. We don't know how much fuel he's put in the car. He might have enough to go for a second run. Pesa retires from the session. He's comfortably up towards the top end of the standings. 16-7 in the opening sector. Not actually a very good opening sector for Lars Algera. It's about 0.3 off where he wants to be, and this early in the lap is not ideal at all for the Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, it just leaves you chasing that time throughout the remainder of the lap, and sometimes you chase it a little bit too hard, particularly on the exit of corners like this, where you have moments like that. Lars Algera illustrating my point nicely. Did manage to hold on to the car pretty well in the end, and does have his teammate up ahead once again. Jeffrey Ritchie on his outlap is going to be able to give a nice slipstream, a nice tow all the way up the hill to his teammate, as he will be commencing his flying lap as well. In fact, I don't think he is commencing it, unless I'm very much mistaken. I think he's just giving the slipstream to Lars for now. Then Lars will repay the favor in maybe a lap's time. But up towards the line we go now with the Canadian. Is this going to be enough? Oh, just, but only just for now. And I don't think it's going to be enough much longer.
We're talking about 500ths from Christian Sendel down to Lars Algera. 4 drivers separated by such a slim margin. As that was Ollie P, I think, jumping up into a P7 with a 106.8.
Yeah, nicely done from Ollie. That puts him ahead of both those McLarens on their medium tyres. And they're both on outlaps as well. Jan Fehler's committed to an outlap on that same set of medium tyres. So he thinks he can go faster on that as the order shifts around once again here. And they get further, closer down towards that drop zone. Vexit and Riptide both there on outlaps. Lars Algera might be able to push again on this same set of softs, but probably doesn't really want to. Marankello in 11th. Doesn't need to find too much improvement to find his way into the top 10, but it's a moving goalpost right now for all of these drivers.
And Christian Sendel, he's out on a fresh set of soft tires. Riptide getting ready to go, and this is why we love having the full qualifying format, because it means that you get the likes of Jan Fehler and Christian Sendel putting in laps in Q2 on the medium tires, and some of them having to risk it, staying out on the medium, some of them putting on the softs, and it will make everything more entertaining come the race. But let's see what Riptide can pull through as he starts his first and only hot lap of Q2.
Yeah, Jeffrey Ritchie's also just starting a flying lap right now. Vexit is going to be starting one soon, or maybe even on one already. Vallu has actually retired from the session there in 8th, so he's not going to be able to improve, and he's looking a little bit vulnerable here. If enough drivers find enough improvement, he could find himself knocked out and forced to go for the contra strategy instead. But let's look at Riptide for the time being. The Swede hasn't been able to set a lap time in this qualifying session thus far, but that looked all very smooth through turn 4 and turn 5 there. Very much under control in that Scarlet Red Ferrari. As once again, the order shifts. That's Marankello up to 4th in the Haas. Where has this come from, Marankello? Great lap time from him. That should be enough to secure a slot in the 3rd and final section of qualifying for him in what is half his home race. as Riptide through Biko de Pato. Once again, it's Jan Fehler now up into fourth. He's comfortably through. Vallu is on the bubble, and he is out, in fact, as Christian Sendel moves up there into second on a set of soft tyres. Zay spun out, so he's not going to be able to improve at all. It is now Sandro sitting there in 10th. Can Riptide be the one to tear it away? In fact, it's not going to need to. It's going to be tearing it away from his teammate if he manages it across the line, and it's not enough. Down in 14th, Lars Algera 15th. And with that, qualifying has come to its conclusion.
Once again, Jacob, there is another suspect name in the list of dropouts from Q2. Actually, two suspect names, Vallu and Lars Algera. Vallu will be able to start on the medium tires in the race. But here's the thing. So will Jan Fehler. He's made it through into Q3 with those mediums, a 106.6, and it's not a huge amount. It's less than 2/10 between Jan Fehler's time and a Vallu. We're talking about from Riptide in P14 on a 106.8 all the way up to Labrax. 14 drivers separated by 0.3 of a second.
Yeah, that was an insanely close qualifying session there. And I got to say, hats off to Marankello for that lap time. That has got to be one of the standout laps of that session. Labrax as well, topping the session. We knew he was fast. We didn't know he'd be topping sessions ahead of Christian Sendel. And let's not forget, Christian went on a set of soft tires as well. So that was a straight fight between the two of them. Zay making it into Q3. Great performance from him. Just, again, a quarter of a second away from the ultimate fastest time in that session. Vexit's going to be pretty happy to have squeaked through there in 8th on a set of softs, no less. So not even on medium tires, the Red Bull struggling to make it through, but just about doing enough. And yeah, this sets us up very nicely for the third and final section of qualifying.
Yeah, also good result for Sandro, P11. That does mean he's going to be the first of the drivers who get to start on that fresh set of tires for the race, and that can really help him. You would rather start P11 than P10 or P9. And well, as we now jump on in for Q3, Jacob, it's time for another set of predictions. And for you, my question is, who do you think are going to be our top 3? And for Twitch chat, I want to ask, do you think we will be seeing any drivers making it into the 105s?
Okay, well, that's going to be an interesting one. For me, talking about the top 3 here, I'm very impressed by that medium tire time from Jan Fehler, but his Q1 time wasn't that great, but you can sandbag a bit in Q1 and get away with it, so it's kind of on the edge. I think we are going to see... I'm going to say Jan Fehler for pole. I'm going to say Christian Sendel second, and I'm going to say Labrax third.
Okay, a lot of faith in Labrax. A lot of faith in Labrax.
I think he's earned it based on Q1 and Q2.
Okay. I agree, Jan Fehler first. I agree, Christian Sendel second. But I have no idea how you are dissing my boy Vexit, because I think Vexit's going to take that P3 spot.
He was 8th in Q2 on a set of softs. I'm just saying.
He was managing his tires. It's Q2. You don't want to kill your tires in Q2.
His tires. He was managing his tires. Who knows? I mean, it was all very close to be fair. Yeah, exactly. It was very close. So these things could change very easily with minor mistakes or improvements from any of the drivers. They all seem to have got a very good handle on this Interlagos circuit for the most part. But yeah, I'm having Labrax to beat Vexit here. That's my bold prediction. That's my brave tweet for this Q3.
You always do have to have a braver prediction at some point. And to be fair, Labrax has been very impressive so far over the course of qualifying. But here comes O'Connor already, the man who qualified in P7 back in Australia. Let's see if he can go even better here in Brazil.
Yeah, Conrady's been quietly doing a good job, both in this qualifying and in the first race as well. Managed P6 and 20 points on the board for the Mercedes driver as he heads now into Desquito de Lago. It's a 16.452, I should say, for that first sector of the lap. A decent enough sector time, I would say, as now through Ferradura in towards turn 7. It all looks very tidy. The car is in the right parts of the track at all the right times, maybe drifting a tiny bit wider than you'd like through Pinheirinho, but the throttle is planted on the exit and the rear tires do not complain about it one bit. Very nice line through Bico de Pato, I gotta say. Plenty of space on the exit, which is always nice to see through there. Now into Juncal, the final proper test, and a tiny bit of understeer on the apex. Running a little bit wide, but you can use that exit curve to get smooth traction regardless. And now we just wait. All the work has been done. Conradi just has to wait for the line.
This is probably going to be around that mid 106 a point across the line, and there it is, the 106.6. Conneretti will definitely be wanting to improve on that lap time, as Zay and Marincello not even in the 106s, in the 107s. Let's see what Labrax can pull through. We know how quick he was in Q1 and Q2. Can he go even faster here in Q3?
Well, Labrax, I've got my faith in you for this one. Let's see if the Renault is going to be up to the very top, at least for now. And of course it is. A 106.491. That's not going to be good enough for pole, I don't think. But nevertheless, it's a decent opening exchange here in Q3. Peso, who might be challenging for those top 3 slots, can't quite beat Conneretti even, actually, with that 106.696. He has been in and around that 5th, that 4th sort of area in all the qualifying sessions thus far. So Peso could still be a dark horse to challenge for the very top.
Yeah, Peso qualifying back, qualifying back in Australia, P4. Let's see what Vexit can pull through. My man that I predicted to finish ahead of Labrax, and the only place where our predictions differ, Jacob. Let's see what Vexit can do, and remember as well, Vexit can't pick up slipstream from a teammate, and that is one thing that could be affecting him here in the final stage of qualifying.
Indeed, it could, as all very much on the limits of the track, both through turns 2 and 3, but has managed to avoid any sort of invalidation. So he can continue plugging away with his lap. That's 16.357. That's already a 10th up on Conneretti's sort of lap time, but he runs wide through 4 and invalidates the lap. So Vexit will just have to go again. Jan Fehler's out there pushing. Hamo as well, 2 drivers who are expecting to get up towards the top. Jan Fehler's coming out of the final corner right now, and it says purple in Sector 2, a 50.144. That sounds fast.
Should be around a 106.2 across the line. We'll see. It's going to be tight. 106.4. So actually, only 800ths quick ahead of a Labrax. And honestly, I'm quite scared to see what Christian Sendel will be able to pull out.
Ammo, here's another driver who might make it into the top 3 up towards the line. Not for now. A 106.855 isn't going to be challenging those guys in the 106.6s and the 106.4s. Further up the order, Jeffrey Ritchie, capable of the top 3 finishes, like we saw in the race in Australia last time. Battled up from 9th on the grid to manage a podium, but that's not going to be good enough through turn 4 as he invalidates once again. Christian Sendel on his outlap, about to start his first flying lap of this final part of qualifying.
That was bizarre, to say the least.
Did he escape that without any... He's left the session.
I was about to say, it looked like almost his wheel had disconnected, and that honestly looked like a wheel issue that had occurred for Christian Sendel, so I'm not sure what happened, but that looks to have been a very serious issue for Christian Sendel. Hopefully he can get everything sorted and return to the session in time, or in time to set a lap time. Let's see what Jeffrey Ritchie is about to start a lap, as he's invalidated his first attempt.
The other thing is that Christian Sendel's car was put back in the pits. So he's not retired from the session. He's back now. So I wonder if that was a visual error and we were seeing him out on track when in fact he was actually back in the pit lane or something like that. I'm not entirely sure what just happened there for him, but usually you'd see the AI car driving around for the rest of that lap if it was just a straight up disconnect. So that's a new one on me from Codemasters. They're always throwing new stuff at us. But let's talk about Jeffrey Ritchie now, who's on his flying lap here and into Sector 2. Had a bit of a moment through Ferradura, but I think that's still going to be a decent enough lap time. Wide through Pinheirinho, but you can still carry a lot of speed by doing that.
Jeffrey Ritchie understeer into Bica de Pato, and that will cost them a 10th or so. It will cost them on the run all the way up to Juncao, 50.2. That's actually a very quick middle sector. 5/10ths off that kind of a lap record, 105.8. So I'm expecting this to be that 106.3, maybe 106.4 is going to be very tight between Ace Ritchie and Jan Fehler across the line. What's it going to be? 106.5, just shy of Labrax.
Yeah, just shy of both Labrax and Jan Fehler. And I got to say, where are all the no voters in chat right now? Lots of people saying that Labrax will not make it into the Q3, into the top 3 here in Q3, I should say. I'm saying you got to have the faith. He's currently sitting up there in second, and he's looking good for it right now. Admittedly, Christian Sendel and Vexit are both yet to set lap times, but Christian Sendel's having issues. Vexit is unable to string a lap together right now. So I got to say, it's looking pretty good for Labrax for the time being.
And remember, this happened to Vexit back in Australia. He had the pace. We saw him going purple in sectors, but he invalidated lap after lap after lap in Q3 is what saw him starting down in P6 for the race. And he's going to be hoping just to at least get one clean lap in. And that's all he's going to have time for. One more lap here at Interlagos.
Peso is up there now into the 106.4s as well, having gone on another set of used tyres there. Actually, Jeffrey Ritchie still out there on his used tyres as well. The Hamo on a fresh set of softs, those red walled soft tyres, starting this, what might be his final flying lap. He might get one more flying lap maybe on the same set of tyres in before the end of this session, and he might want to because that looked like a bit of a mistake through turn 1. He's collected it up nicely through 2 and 3, but still might have lost a bit of time in the opening sector there. Let's see, and it's a 16.449, so that's not too bad.
That looked like an invalidation on Apex. Runs wide, and he's just going to lift out and drop ERS down to mode 0. So that's it for this lap for Hamo. He has enough time to get into the pits and back out. Zay on an out lap. I think Peso might be on a hot lap right now on a set of used tyres, and actually he's going to head into the pits, yes.
Yeah, so he's got probably one last set of fresh tyres that he's going to strap on before the end. He's gone for 2 different laps on that previous set of tyres, and a 106.495 on a not entirely fresh set of tyres is nothing to sniff at all. The Czech driver looking solid right now, but here's Jan Fehler on his second flying lap of the session, already into the second sector of the lap. Oh, bit deep there into turn 7, but that can be okay, because for turn 8, you want to be over to that left-hand side of the track as much as you can, using all the road on the exit, opening the line into Pico de Pato, but a lock-up will prevent Jan Fehler from getting the purchase on the apex that he would like. Let's see how fast it is. That's what's important. It was 1:00. He's up on his previous best, not by a huge amount, but he is up. And now, with a smooth run through Junção, he's looking to try and extend his lead at the top.
Should be an improvement for Jan Fehler. What's the run up to the line? 106.3, improves by 0.04 of a second, and is now a 10th clear of Labrak. Zay on a lap, he's 1/10 up on that 1:07.0, so he's on the cusp of jumping ahead of Hamo.
As they see some traffic up ahead in turn 6 and 7, but thankfully it's not getting in the way. That's Marinkello getting well out of Zay's way there. Zay's already had some issues with traffic through that part of the lap earlier on in qualifying, so we'll be very glad to see that for sure. So Zay and Hamo, who are both out there on laps at the moment, but Hamo might actually be heading back in on a set of used tyres right now. And no, the AlphaTauri is still pushing out there, so he's just going to go for another lap on that set. In fact, he goes above Connor Eddy there with a 106.648, so a micro improvement there for the AlphaTauri, but it might be a bigger improvement here for Zay as we're heading up towards the line on board with the Aussie in the Ferrari. And there is a significant improvement up into 5th ahead of both Hamo and Connor Eddy.
And Vexit is on a lap, but we saw from Zay, he actually didn't use up all of the track into Junção. There's probably another 10th in that lap. Let's see what Vexit can pull through. A 49.9. This is going to be very close to a 106 dead. I don't think it's going to be enough for Jacob, but I have a feeling this will be provisional pole for the Red Bull driver.
Let's see as he heads up towards the line. It's a 106.127. Vexit, where has that been in Q2 at least? It was there in Q1, but it's been a minute since we've seen it, but he's back up there at the very top now. Jan Fehler probably won't be able to respond actually because he's on a rather used set of tyres at this point. It's up to Christian Sendel to try and reclaim pole for the Mclaren team. Labrax is out there on a flying lap, same as Peso, same as Jeffrey Ritchie, all those guys on fresh tyres. So they'll be looking to try and feed on the scraps and try and get onto those front couple of rows as well. But it's Christian Sendel who has the biggest chance of pole, you'd have to say.
It does seem that the track has got quicker and quicker over the course of this third qualifying session. Let's see what Christian Sendel can do. Just like Vexit, it's all come down to that final lap of 50.0 at the end of Sector 2. I think that's a little bit slower than Vexit, but has he been able to find the better run on corner exit? He doesn't have slipstream from a teammate, and this will be close. Across the line comes Christian Sendel, a 106.30. Jan Fehler improves with a 106.1. Labrax just shy of Christian Sendel.
Pesto coming up towards the line. The Czech driver in the Williams. He didn't improve through Sector 2, but across the line, no, he does not find it. It's only Conneretti left out there now in the Mercedes. He is improving, but not by a whole lot. But he's very narrowly behind both Zay and Hamo, so he might still be able to find a couple of positions here with his final lap. But Labrak's getting oh so close to that top 3. Jan Fehler on his 3rd lap on that set of tyres, getting really close to Vexit as well. But it is going to be the Red Bull sneaking pole away from the 2 McLarens. Conneretti did improve a couple of positions, I think, and up to 6th he goes. But really nicely done by Vexit when it matters.
Good lap from Conneretti, but what a lap from Vexit in the end. 5 thousandths of a second, Jacob, ahead of Jan Fehler. It was a close back in Australia, maybe not quite as close here at Brazil, but right at the top of the standings. It's neck and neck between the SMM driver and the Comrade Gaming driver.
Indeed, and it's surprising to see Christian Sendel just that step below them. Maybe that's what we're expecting from Christian going into the season, but our expectations were really blown out of the water by him in Australia. But now, down there in 3rd, he's going to be a bit disappointed with that qualifying, but of course we still have the race to go, and starting 3rd is not a bad place to be. He's not going to be anywhere near as disappointed as Vallu, of course. He'll be starting down there in 12th.
Something else to remember is Jan Fehler starting on that medium set of tyres, so you can expect Christian Sendel to get a better launch off the line, and maybe Jan Fehler will drop down to P3, but then he's going to be on those medium tyres, and it's all about sticking within the DRS zone to the likes of Vexit and maybe even Christian Sendel ahead.
And we're getting reintroduced to all those drivers who we haven't seen for a little while now, all those who went out in Q1 and the guys who went out in Q2 as well. They're all back as we are now into the race lobby itself. Hopefully, fingers crossed, touching wood, we'll be able to get this one underway without any issues. But that is a big if here with Cody's. But, you know, hopefully, you never know. Maybe we'll avoid bugs this time.
Jacob, they're not bugs. They're Easter eggs, right? As you said, you don't know which one you're going to be getting next. It's Easter weekend coming up. It's Easter Friday or Good Friday. I can't remember which it's called. You know, we have to spot the Easter eggs in the game.
Yeah, no, exactly. And apparently there's an undiscovered Easter egg in this game. Do you know that?
Oh, really? What is it?
Yeah, it's only available, I think, if you have the Dutch commentary turned on. It's something to do with Olav Mol, who is the Dutch commentator. Other than that, I don't know anything about it because it seems like no one has discovered it yet.
Okay. I think we'd have to ask, is it Labrax who's Dutch?
Well, there's a couple of Belgian guys who could do it as well. But yeah, you got Labrax, who's Dutch, Ace Ritchie, Jeffrey Ritchie, he's Dutch as well. So these guys might be able to fill us in on that potentially if they've been able to find it. But I do know a lot of Dutch people will probably just use the English commentary anyway. But nevertheless, maybe they found it. Who knows?
Okay. So, Jacob, it is time for our final prediction of the night. And that is top 3 at the end of the race.
Yeah, top 3. A final prediction for us, we should say. There'll probably be some more predictions in chat going on throughout the race. But top 3 at the end of the race, I think we're looking at a victory for Jan Fehler here, in my opinion. I think we're going to see Jan Fehler, Christian Sendel, and then Vexit in that order. I think is going to be based on penalties that Vexit will lose out to Christian Sendel rather than on raw pace. I think Vexit will finish ahead of Christian Sendel on track, but on penalties, Sendel will take it away from him.
I think I agree, Jan Fehler to take the win because he has the alternate strategy. I think if they were on the same strategy, I'd put my money on Vexit. I think Vexit will take P2 and Christian Sendel P3. Something interesting I want to bring up is Vallu, despite being outside the top 10, has opted for the soft tire, so he really wants to cut his way through the field as quickly as he can in the opening few laps, and that is not a good sign.
Yeah, lobby restart for all these guys. Unfortunately, I jinxed it. We can't get a clean one underway. So, yeah, we're going to have to take a little bit of a break here while we set up the lobby once again, set up the qualifying order once again on the grid. Some sort of issue has struck this particular lobby. And as we learned last time out in Australia, this can actually change the strategy subtly for some of the drivers. It's going to benefit everyone who started on who's due to start on soft tires because they won't have done that qualifying lap on them.
And actually, speaking of strategies, there is a reason for this. Vallu was unable to pick his tires. He didn't actually want to be starting on those softer tires and couldn't control the car on the formation lap either. So don't be surprised if when we jump back in for the actual race, Vallu is on a set of those yellow walled medium tires.
Indeed, yeah. So we can see that then. And nice to know the issue as well as we have to wait now for it. And I just want a quick shout out to the person who made that prediction in chat. That's trolled it with that prediction because you made a prediction. It can only be discovered at the end of the race, so you can't make any other predictions till the end of the race. So we might want to do something about that potentially. But yeah, so yeah, thinking about the race then. So we're thinking about the top 3. Did you say your prediction for the top 3? If so, they went in one ear and out the other. So I apologize. You said again?
Jan Fehler,
Yeah.
Vexit, and
Yeah.
Christian Sendel.
Okay, yeah. Oh, apparently they're wrong according to production. So what do you got then,
wait, who's
production?
wrong?
What are you having?
Production's always right, let's be honest. So
Ooh.
Oh, Jan
Okay.
Fehler, Vexit, Labrax, says production.
Yeah,
So,
I mean-
production, what do you think is happening to Christian Sendel? Someone's going to run into. Well, we'll have to see. Maybe it could be Labrax himself. Maybe that's how Labrax gets up to P3. Who knows?
Potentially.
Either way, I think we're in for a rather exciting race. And I feel like, unlike in Australia, where we had top 4 in terms of pace and then kind of everyone else, it feels a lot more even.
Yeah.
Across the top 10.
No, yeah, it's definitely going to be a bit closer here in this race, that's for sure. I think in general, it's a much shorter circuit, so you do tend to get much closer gaps throughout the field in terms of the qualifying gaps in particular when the times themselves are lower. It's not a circuit. It's a circuit that if you put enough time into, you can learn it really well as well. It's not one of the toughest circuits to learn, I don't think. I just never managed to learn it myself because I never put in enough time. But if you do put in enough time, I reckon you can get it down. Like you were mentioning, actually, when you were finding more pace, the more you worked on it for your analysis video as well. But yeah, so I think we should see the drivers being quite close to each other. And of course, you've got a huge DRS straight as well.
I think my camera's decided to go funny. I just looked at the screen and I saw it's purple. I was like, oh, is the wood purple? No, it's not purple. It's
trash.
Only this. It's weird. You know how like sometimes you kind of watch like shows or reality TV and you get the feeling, oh, it looks like they're having a cool life. Well, right now I'm looking at the camera of myself and thinking, that guy's having a pretty cool life. I wish I could be him. And then realizing that it's me. But I've been fooled. I've been deceived by the camera.
Right, okay, well, I mean, yeah, apparently, I guess, who doesn't want it? What a cool life you're having with
Not
your
necessary,
purple
Reed. Come on. That was low.
I was going to brush over production's comment there, but yeah. Let's just say production and Milky, they're not necessarily the best of friends all the time.
No.
But of course, everyone likes me, and that's what's mostly important. But yeah, exactly. Production literally just said he loves me, so isn't that nice?
I'm just a hated child in the family. It's just like, what are you even doing? It's just like, why are you still here? It's like I could just almost see this kind of, like a kind of family meal. Like Reed's like, I guess the mum, and she's like brings out the food. Jacob turns up, it's like, oh, what have you got for dinner? And then I like turn up, and then the mum's just like, you're still here.
Right, okay, well, maybe. I mean, perhaps, that's, you said that, I didn't, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. But yeah, so let's think about the race then again, shall we? Let's try and get a little bit back on topic. So people starting outside the top 10, we're looking at Vallu in particular, right, to do something major when it comes to the race itself. What are your expectations for what Vallu will be able to do?
There's been something weird that's happened, I feel. And maybe we've kind of missed it. But we haven't seen Vallu invalidating like half his laps in qualifying.
Yeah, that's true. We did see him messing a lot of them up and having to back out of them, but...
Yeah, he didn't invalidate.
He didn't invalidate, that's true.
Usually we see Vallu being very quick, but invalidating his laps. Now we're seeing Vallu being less quick, but not invalidating his laps. So I'm very confused, Jacob, because I don't really know what we can expect to see from Vallu. I think we're going to be seeing a more consistent Vallu from what we saw last time out in Australia and in the final round of Season 2. Of course, these are the only 2 races we can really take into context because those are the only 2 times that he has raced without the racing line on. I think we'll see Vallu climb up the order, but I'm going to guess P6. I think Labrax has showed a lot of pace. I think Ace Richie will be able to bring in that same pace he had from last time. So I think P6 for Vallu.
No faith in Peso to battle off the Finn?
I think he could. The thing is, I think Peso, Ace Richie, and who was the third that I said? I've already forgotten. Labrax. I think 2 of them will be able to jump ahead. I don't know which 2.
Okay.
I think it's likely that Peso will be the third who drops the position to Vallu at the end.
Yeah. I'm seeing some predictions that came through in chat while we were waiting as well. And we've got, a win for Jan, a win for Vexit, and a win for Labrax being predicted in chat as well, of course, along with a very nice prediction from Biggles. So thank you for that one, Biggles, as well. As it sounds like we're getting just about back into qualifying, into the race, I should say, unless I'm very much mistaken. So we should be able to show you that in just a few moments' time and get a proper idea of what tyres everyone will be starting on. But of course, Jan starting on those mediums in the top 10. Is he the only driver on the mediums in the top 10, I think?
The only driver who was able to make it through a mediums in Q2.
Yeah, so I think he is the lone driver on that strategy inside the top 10. And, I mean, I don't know how much it's going to work out for him. It's an interesting one. It's not too many people committed too hard to it. There were a few who really wanted it. Of course, Vallu fell to that particular sword going for it, so he definitely wanted it. So maybe we should be expecting Jan Fehler to have a big advantage in terms of strategy as well, though, of course, you can always have issues with safety cars, virtual safety cars, that sort of thing. Interestingly, every single driver outside of the top 10 who does get free tyre choice wants the mediums as well, so they all agree that Jan Fehler's got it right here.
Yeah. And I think last time we saw 2 drivers on softs. I think Vallu was one who was on softs, and I think KX Ricardo was the other driver who was on the soft tyres. So they both opted for the mediums. We have 11 drivers on mediums and 9 on softs. My eyes are firmly going to be on the McLarens at the start because I have a feeling they will both be in P2 and P3 come the end of lap 1, but in the other order.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, that is where Jan Fehler stands to lose the most in this race. If the likes of Labrax and Jeffrey Ritchie get past Jan on this opening lap or opening few laps, and Vexit and Christian Sendel are able to gap those guys, if they have enough pace over and above what Labrax and Jeffrey Ritchie are able to offer, then we could see Jan having a pretty compromised first stint, particularly towards the end of it when the medium tyres will start to get better relative to the softs. If he's stuck behind the 2 Dutch drivers in 4th and 5th right now, then Christian Sendel and Vexit might be able to build enough of a gap to sort of offset the delta in the strategy, potentially.
And I think that kind of crossover period from the softs to the mediums, or the point where the mediums will be at the same pace as the softs, will come around maybe lap 8. They should start to get quicker at about lap 11, lap 12. So expect that lap 8 to 12 range to be where we start to see Jan Fehler popping off, as Jeffrey Ritchie has clearly had a bit of a spinala somewhere around. Didn't hit anyone, otherwise we would have seen someone else getting disqualified from this session.
Indeed. And to be honest, it happened late enough in the formation lap that I don't think it's going to matter. Jeffrey's tyre should still be in more or less the right spot here, so I don't think that's going to be too terribly distracting or important for his race start, which will be coming up in just a moment's time here with Cameron Cooper lining up at the very back of the grid there. You see the predicted pit stop strategies, according to the game at least. But here come the lights, and we will find out the strategies in just a moment's time, as all 5 lights are on, and they go out, but they have to wait to go out for the drivers as well. And now we are underway, and it looks like a decent getaway off the line initially for Jan Fehler there on those medium tyres, but not alongside Vexit. And Christian Sendel is looking to challenge around the outside. Jan's boxed in by the Red Bull there, and as a result, that is going to be Christian Sendel doing exactly what you said and moving up ahead of his teammate there on those soft tyres. Now, Jeffrey Ritchie's had a bit of a poor start. Maybe that did cost him on the formation lap after all. He's under pressure here from Peso, from Hamo as well, as it's Peso and Jeffrey Ritchie going side by side. Hamo and Zay as well. Hamo very wide, just about holding on to that AlphaTauri there, but he loses out to Marinkello as well, who's up 1 position from where he started. Vallu already up to 11th as well.
Yeah, Vallu just trying to stay out of trouble on those medium tires, cannot afford to be involved in an incident. Peso holds it round the outside of Zay through Bica de Pato as they make their way through turn 9. Sorry, that was turn 8, and we see the Ferrari running wide. I think that was Peso running wide as well. That's going to be another position going to Vallu, who's now side by side with Zay through turn 11.
Peso's having a really tough time of it right now. Hamo trying to get past into Juncal. There's a car off in the background. There's Yanni Tripkov, who's gone round there on the exit of turn 11. That's a really odd place to have an incident. And Yanni Tripkov down to the very back of the order and well off the tail of the field as well. Vexit leading the way from Christian Sendel. Jan Fehler in third with Labrax holding close attendance in fourth. Connor Eddy still up there in fifth as well. Hamo and Peso with all their battling. They're threatening to fall away from Marinkello up ahead. But they're just about sticking within DRS range. Ollie P, he's had an issue as well. He's losing out to both Luca and Sandro as each of them get past. Vallu's been able to dispatch Zay as well. And look at this chaos down towards Desquito de Lago. That's going to be Sandro trying to cut the nose off of Ollie P there. And he sends him round with a little bit of contact. Ollie maybe a little bit too aggressive. Hard to tell on that angle. But he is going to be spinning around and joining Yanni Tripkov at the very back.
There might be some front wing damage for Ollie. We'll have to see whether he does a jump on into the pits, but it's an absolute swarm of cars in this midfield battle. Chaos, as you rightly called it, Jacob. Zola down to P18. Cameron Cooper not having a great start. Remember, he started down in P19 or P18, so it's only gained the positions from Ollie P and Yane's mistakes. But look at this. Marinkello is the first driver who is outside of that 1 second zone to Jeffrey Ritchie. And right as I say that, he just pops back on into the 1 second.
Yeah, Vexit saying the fastest lap of the race thus far here as they end lap 2. DRS is now going to be up and available for all of these drivers. Luca's had a great start, by the way, making progress up into 12th for now.
Oh, yeah.
And pretty close to the rear end of Zay in that Ferrari as well, who is stuck there on soft tyres behind Vallu. But Vallu's pace on mediums might be enough that Zay won't be too unhappy about being stuck behind the Finnish driver as long as Vallu can keep it clean. But Zay still looks a little bit faster at this stage of the race. Cameron Cooper and KX Ricardo, they're making moves further down. That's Cameron Cooper getting past the racing point there. Zola might be getting interested as well. But still, it's calmed down a little bit now as the drivers have stopped fighting quite so frantically with one another. It's interesting that Hamo is falling away from Marinkello here.
Something else that's interesting is Vexit's done it. He's gone and pulled over a second to Christian Sendel. This is absolutely critical for Vexit. I wonder if we can get an onboard shot with Vexit. I just want to see how much ERS he has. Okay, he's got absolutely nothing left in the tank. He's used everything, but Christian Sendel has also used up a whole bunch of his own ERS to try to stay within 1 second. Vexit can now get the hammer down and pull away without Christian Sendel having that pesky DRS.
It's a fascinating chess game that sometimes develops with that ERS percentages, with the drivers trying to second guess when the other guys are using it, when they can afford to avoid using it themselves. But right now, Zay is using a little bit to try and get past Vallu around the outside of turn 4. The Red Bull got past the Ferrari in the opening lap, but Zay wants that position back. Can't find it there, though. And Vallu still holding him off on those medium tyres for now. Sandro getting past Lars Algera behind. Riptide was getting involved with the Alfa Romeo as well and has been able to get past. So Lars losing out to both Sandro and Riptide there, falling down into 15th. And Vallu still there sitting in 10th.
I wonder if that was actually a mistake from Riptide. I can't remember if Riptide was behind the Williams and Alfa duo or if he was ahead of them, because Sandro was ahead of Lars before. We saw Lars trying to hunt down Sandro on the previous lap. So those three close together, and I'm sure they'll probably stay close for a while. Vexit 1.3 seconds clear of Christian Sendel, and Jan Fehler critically staying within that 1 second range of his teammate.
Yeah, but it's something that the McLarens needed. They have the advantage right now of two guys up against the one Red Bull of Vexit, and where have we seen that before? If you replace the McLarens with Mercedes, that's something we're quite used to seeing recently with 2-on-1 up there. But Jan Fehler, if Christian Sendel had been able to stick within DRS range of Vexit and been able to just engage a DRS train there at the very front, then Jan would have just been able to drag along with him as well and not lose any time to the guys on softs, even though he himself is on a slower set of tyres at this point in the race. But now that Christian Sendel has fallen away, Vexit is able to stretch his legs relative to Jan Fehler, and that's what is so important, because there is a very different battle going on between the two of them right now. And the more time that Vexit gets over Jan Fehler before pitting, the better for the Englishman in that Red Bull.
Honestly, now that you bring it up, Jacob, there are so many similarities between this race and the opening race of the F1 season from Bahrain. It's a lone Red Bull at the front of the order, but I'm going to hold that thought for a second as here comes Jeffrey Ritchie on Connor Eddy. Connor will not go defensive, and Jeffrey will be able to slingshot his way through down the inside into T1.
Yeah, nicely done by Jeffrey. He's had some pace after that poor opening lap with the tyres not quite in the right state after the disqualification from the formation lap, but it might not be over here as Connor Eddy's looking to slither back up the inside on the way down towards turn 4. And he will be able to brake later than the Alfa Romeo as well. Jeffrey Ritchie trying to hang it around the outside. There's not too much room on the exit there of turn 5. Seen some big crashes there in the past in real life. 2009, Jarno Trulli, Adrian Sutil. But right now, these guys are keeping it much cleaner here with Jeffrey Ritchie still sitting on the inside line. And that's going to be all important for turn 7. Shuts the door on the entry to Pinheirino and moves up comfortably into P5 at the end. But all that battling between the two of them means that Labrax has been able to steal a bit of a march on them. 1.5 seconds between the two Dutchmen in 4th and 5th.
This is why drivers love Interlagos as a circuit to race at. You can run side by side through so much of the track, and what started as a battle before we even made our way to the finish line ends halfway through the lap. Jeffrey Ritchie 1.4 seconds behind Labrax, needs to get his head down to close back into that 1 second range, and we're seeing Jan Fehler closing in onto Christian Sendel, now half a second behind. Also seeing Vallu, the other driver on those medium tyres, who is inside the top 10, now half a second behind Hamo. And I think we're getting to this crossover point where the medium tyres are quicker than the soft tyres a few laps earlier than what I predicted during the formation.
Yeah, even despite the fact that everyone started on fresh tyres as well, those mediums do seem to have come online. Jan Fehler will be very keen to get past Christian Sendel. Not sure how much teamwork's going on between the two Germans in the McLaren team, considering they are basically title rivals for one another, so it would surprise me if they're working together all that well. But Jan would love to be able to be waved past Christian Sendel at this point, particularly if those medium tyres are performing well, because then he can look to try and chase down Vexit before the Red Bull makes it into the pit lane.
And honestly, right now, for McLaren, I do wonder, do they pull out the Mercedes strategy from Bahrain? You know, it's the same situation. They're in P2, P3. It's the Red Bull who is leading the race and seems to be so much quicker than the McLarens right now. And to be honest, we're in a stage. Christian Sendel is no longer the man who's battling for the win. This is a head-to-head between Vexit and Jan Fehler. So does Christian Sendel play the team game? Does he pit 2 laps before Vexit to get off that huge undercut so that when Vexit makes his pit stop, he comes out behind, and all of a sudden Jan Fehler, when he pits, sure, he'll come out in P3, but he'll know that he has his teammate in the lead who can hold Vexit up and bring Jan Fehler back into play.
If it was going to happen, I think it already would have happened. Jan Fehler and Christian Sendel, they're outside of DRS range from Labrax, who's starting to drift a little bit further away, struggling with his wear on his soft tyres as well. Ritchie's actually been able to close back in on him nicely. But with Jan Fehler all over the gearbox of his teammate there, and Christian losing yet more time to Vexit over the course of that last lap, if they were going to swap positions, I think they would have already done it. So I think it's going to have to be a plain old overtake on track for Jan to get past Christian here to try and challenge for the victory in this race. But the difference in strategy might still be enough. It's only 2.5 seconds between Jan Fehler and Vexit at this point. It's not like the race is falling away completely.
2 seconds from Vexit to Christian Sendel. Usually we'd be seeing something like half a second, and Vexit almost running away with the race at the moment in a similar manner to how Christian Sendel ran away with the racer back in Australia. Zay's just found a way past on Peso for P10, as we're seeing Vallu closing into this battle for P7, which is currently between Maranello and Hammer.
Yeah, Peso's really struggling at this point because he's been passed by Vallu and now Zay, but here comes Hamo trying to get up the inside of Maranello and does so without too much trouble. Maranello not really fighting that one too hard. The Italian was falling quite comfortably further away from Connor Eddy. A bit of a gap forming between 6th and 7th. Hamo will look to try and close that one back down. But he didn't look like he quite had the pace of those cars ahead in qualifying throughout most of it. So he might well have a bit of a task on his hands. Maranello, the next up for him behind to try and defend from is Vallu. And Vallu's going to be very quick and very keen right now on those yellow-walled medium tyres. But yeah, I don't know what's happened to Peso here. I don't know if he's just struggling more than others with his tyre wear. But losing out, falling down to 11th, not where we expect to see the Czech driver at all.
I wonder if he potentially has some front wing damage.
Yeah.
It would explain why he's dropping down the order, because he seems to be losing a whole bunch of time. At the very least, there's no visible damage on the Williams, and we'll have to wait and see when he does eventually pit, if he switches that front wing over and puts a new one on the car. Well, I mean, it's kind of similar to Christian Sendel, you know, both Peso and Christian Sendel struggling more than
Fehler.
we would otherwise expect.
Fehler getting past Christian Sendel further up the order. He's managed it into turn 4 there, and the medium-tire Mclaren is now ahead of the one on the softs. Christian Sendel doesn't look like he let him past easily, though, as they've lost yet more time to Vexit up ahead. But Jan critically is past his teammate and in clean air to try and hunt down the Red Bull in the lead of this race in that orange Mclaren. He's got a few laps to do so before Vexit's going to be heading into the pits to get rid of those softs. But maybe Vexit might pull the trigger early now that he knows that Jan Fehler is the one chasing him and no longer Christian Sendel.
And all of a sudden, the tyres come into play. Connor picks up the first time penalty of the race at 3 seconds. Will be added on to his time at the end of this race. Also seeing Vallu closing in onto Maranello. He's at 3/10 behind as Christian Sendel. Will he look to pose a threat onto Jan Fehler? No, too far behind, and Jan Fehler will hold on to that P2 spot. So, we've got just under 3 seconds separating Vexit and Jan Fehler, and we're going to have to keep an eye on how this gap really changes over the upcoming few laps, as Zay coming in for an early pit stop onto a set of the hard compound tyres.
Yeah, the gap stagnated a little bit since Jan Fehler got past Christian Sendel. It's been stuck there at around 2.9 seconds. Vallu still has managed to get past Maranello and is already onto the rear end of Hamo as well. That didn't take very long at all for the Finn. Riptide and Sandro battling as well. I've noticed Sandro and Lars Algera, they've both been bottled up behind Riptide for quite a while in that Ferrari. They definitely have more pace than him right now. You can tell by the gaps between them. Look how close they are on the track. And Riptide is losing out heavily to Luca. Sandro desperate to get past, sending moves up the inside of turn 7, which is not a typical overtaking spot whatsoever, but he's trying to do anything he can to get past the Swede, who's holding station in 12th, but does not have the pace right now to make this contra strategy work well enough. Luca so far up the road from these guys, and he's about to get Peso as well. Zay, by the way, was the first driver to head into the pits. He's onto a set of hard tyres. Those will take him to the end of this race as Sandro lights up the rears on the exit of Juncal. Further up, Jeffrey Ritchie having a go at the Labrax for 4th, but not close enough into the braking zone. Luca has now been able to get past Peso. Will Peso's teammate be able to do anything? He's going to have to defend from Lars Algera, who's alongside him here into the braking zone. Lars taking the outside line. Sandro trying to defend with the inside. The Belgian trying to keep his nose in there, but Lars looks to have the better line, should have the better run through turn 3. But they're still going to be side by side all the way up towards turn 4 here. Oh, a little bit of a touch between the two of them there. That is Lars Algera making the move, getting past Sandro, who seems to be struggling for pace down the straights.
Yeah, both Williams struggling somewhat. Maybe they've got a slightly different setup. Maybe, as you said, struggling on the straights. Maybe they've got a little bit higher front wing on the car. Vallu's found a way through on Hamo, and he's now 3.5 seconds behind Connor Eddy, who does have a 3-second time penalty. So let's see then if Vallu can start to close in up ahead. Jan Fehler still 2.9 seconds behind Brexit. He's lost maybe a 10th over the last couple of laps, so that gap is pretty much a bang on even between the two of them.
Yeah, it's not changing really at all, and Jan will be very disappointed to see that. Christian Sendel's also sticking with Jan Fehler quite well at this point, so Jan might feel that maybe if he got left past a couple laps before, that he could have salvaged this gap between himself and Vexit. It's definitely not all over yet. There's still plenty of permutations in the strategy to play out, but 3 seconds is a bit of a margin to overcome as this race will continue. But of course, that margin will get a lot less if Vexit does pick up a time penalty at the front of this race. He hasn't done so yet. It's only Ollie P and Connor Eddy who have done that thus far. Zola and Ricardo are battling further down the order, over 16th and 17th right now at the very back, and Ollie P looks like he's getting involved there as well. But out at the front, it is Vexit comfortably leading from the two McLarens. Jeffrey Ritchie, having got past Labrax, he's looking to try and get back in DRS range of those McLarens as well, because Labrax was he was just on the cusp of that for a couple of laps there.
And I do wonder, maybe Jeffrey Ritchie could even look for the undercut just to ensure that he gets within that 1 second gap of Christian Sendel. And if you are looking for the undercut from the softs onto the mediums, you probably want to be pitting at lap 14 or lap 15, as the optimal time to pit will be lap 15, lap 60.
Indeed, and Vallu still closing down this pack of cars as well, but he's not making so many inroads as we might expect either. So I think these medium tyres are basically at a similar point to the softs now, where they've lost the best of it, and they're just degrading a bit too much now to be really very valuable compared to those soft tires. Lars Algera has critically made the move on Riptide for 12th there. He is now uncorked and can try and chase down Peso and Luca further up, but took rather too many laps for Lars to get past Riptide. His race has already been pretty heavily compromised.
And Lars and Riptide both on this set of medium tires. They're 5 seconds behind a Peso, who is really struggling on these set of soft tires. And well, if he had started the race on a set of worn soft tires, it'd probably be even worse for Peso, for the Czech driver. But he's now over a second behind Luca, kind of just dipping in and out of that DRS range. And we've now hit the point on lap 14 where I think the mediums are now officially faster than the soft. Jan Fehler starting to close back in on to Vexit. Expect Vexit to pit at the end of the next lap.
All right, so once those pit stops come through, then we're going to see some decisions being made. Jan Fehler could just go mediums to hards in this race, but if he does so, he'll want to wait longer and try and make sure that his hards are going to be much fresher than Vexit's towards the end of this race. Other than that, maybe he can try and go on to softs, but it's going to be a bit of a stretch from those medium tires. But he needs to be making inroads on Vexit right now, and he's still not really doing it. It's still just 2.9 seconds between the two of them. Jeffrey Ritchie, ever since getting past Labrax, hasn't been able to get closer to these two McLarens either. Connor Eddy harassing the rear end of that Renault. Zola picking up a time penalty, down in 17th for now, as he's in his battle with KX Ricardo. That battle has been going on for a little while now. Interesting also, another thing to note, Sandro starting to lose time relative to Riptide and Lars Algera as well. He gets back in DRS range now, but he's still struggling for pace there, and it's not been a good race from him thus far.
Not been a great race. Better, though, than his performance last time out in Australia. Going back to your point, though, on Jan Fehler, I can't see him putting on the soft tyres. Vexit into the pits at the end of lap 14. Christian Sendel will follow through. Labrax are kind of darting in and then back out. Connor Eddy, oh, you saw how late he was on the brakes, and it was always going to end badly.
Mediums for Vexit. Okay, mediums for all of these guys. They're going mediums to the very end here. So Jan is going to have to go onto a set of softs, you'd have to imagine. Mediums to hard.
Soft medium is the go-to strategy, I think, here at Brazil. Yeah. I think back in D1, it was... Actually, D1's not really representative because I think there was a safety car which kind of threw everything around a bit. But soft mediums do work. You do have somewhat high tire wear. Maybe hard softs you could go for, but the medium softs do last long enough.
Yeah, okay. So Zay, interestingly, going a different way by going onto those hard tires 4 laps ago. Hasn't been able to make as many inroads onto the rear end of the field as he would have liked. He's been steadily getting closer and closer to Zola and Ricardo, but they themselves have been getting further and further away from the rest of the field. Lars Algera sitting in 9th at the moment with Vexit very close behind him. Picks up a 3-second time penalty under that pressure and pushed wide by Vexit there. That is not a nice move. And oh no, there's contact between Riptide and Lars Algera as well. Lars just about holds it together, and Christian Sendel finds his way past for free as well. Sandro also getting past there as Marancello and Jeffrey Ritchie both pit. But Vexit was looking a bit naughty on the exit of Bico de Pato there.
Very naughty from Vexit. That looked to be a situation as Jeffrey Ritchie. It looked like he had taken mediums off and put on a new set of mediums, but I'm pretty sure he was on soft tyres beforehand. So with the incident with Vexit, I just have a feeling, I think he thought he was clear of Lars Algera and thought he could take his racing line, but as a result squeezed Lars Algera off a track, and that might be a penalty going his way. It would just be penalty points at the end of the race, so shouldn't affect the racer standings at the very least. But I think Vexit knows he needs to get the hammer down. He cannot allow Jan Fehler to be finding any time in this kind of critical point where Vexit's on these fresh mediums and Jan Fehler is on his old set of medium tyres.
Labrax is still out here on a set of soft tyres, but look at the gap between himself and Jan Fehler. It wasn't long ago that was about a second between the two of them. Now it's almost 6 seconds. I'm not sure if Labrax made a mistake or if these soft tyres have just gone off in such a major way that he cannot hang with the pace anymore. Into the pits he comes to get rid of them regardless. Hamo also going to be the final drivers there to get rid of their soft tyres, and onto mediums, and both of them will go, no doubt about that. Jan Fehler only 8.5 seconds ahead of Vallu. Well, I say only, that's a pretty comfortable margin to be ahead of everyone else on the same strategy as yourself. Vexit going to be getting closer and closer to Luca. I doubt if he gets up to Vallu before Vallu pits, I doubt Vallu's going to give him too much trouble in getting past.
Yeah, the other thing to remember is that, we had that lobby restart at the end of qualifying before going into the race. So Jan Fehler is on the exact same tires as there is Vallu's time penalty coming through. Tends to pick one up per race, and I guess he's maybe fulfilled his quota here at Brazil. But Vallu, he's on the exact same set of medium tires as Jan Fehler, because Jan Fehler is not on the medium tires that he qualified with. It's a brand spanking new set of medium tires that he's been able to start the race on.
Indeed. So yeah, the advantage not there for Vallu over Jan Fehler that would usually be there at this point in the race. Jeffrey Ritchie's pretty close behind Sandro, who'll be disappointed to see himself coming out in the middle of the guys who, when they came out of the pits there, they're just coming out all around Sandro. Sandro's race not been going his way, but still sitting up there in 7th for the time being. Should still be able to get some decent points, but a top 10 finish is going to be a bit of an uphill struggle unless he can make those soft tires really work for him at the end of this race, if that's what he goes on to. Christian Sendel sending it up the inside there of Riptide. A nice and easy move as the Ferrari driver with those 18-lap-old medium tires cannot battle against that orange McLaren. And Christian Sendel, in his hunt to close down Vexit, is getting a little bit closer and has now cleared all the traffic he needs to.
Jeffrey Ritchie now on the rear end of Sandro will want to have a go down into Ferradura. He's going to do it on the exit of Descida del Lago, and Sandro will not make his life difficult. Knows that the two are on completely different strategies.
Yeah, Labrax has really lost out. Again, he lost so much time there. I don't know if it was an incident or if he just came in late and the tires went off, but he was battling with Jeffrey Ritchie before the two of them headed into the pits. Now he finds himself well away in terms of time. He's lost out to Connor Eddy in terms of track position as well, but he is still pretty clear of Hamo, so at least there's that.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the issue was for Labrax. Maybe he got held in the pits. Either way, he's lost about probably 3 seconds with his overcut as Vallu's into the pits. So is Jan Fehler. This is a critical. Jan Fehler pitting on lap 20 of the race at the end of lap 19. He'll come out behind Vexit. He'll come out behind Christian Sendel, but by how much?
Yeah, can he stay ahead of Riptide? That could be quite important here. It looks like he's gonna, and actually he's gonna be almost in position to try and take it away from his teammate here. He'd love to be let past by Christian Sendel. Will he be let past? Yes, he will. Christian Sendel playing the team game there, I gotta say. I don't think there's any way he doesn't defend that otherwise. And as a result, Jan Fehler now has a clear run to close down Vexit with a better set of tires.
This is a fantastic position for Jan Fehler. He's 3 seconds behind on a set of fresh, softer tires. The closing speed's going to be over half a second a lap, you'd have to think. Also, someone to keep an eye out on in this race is Jeffrey Ritchie. He's on the freshest mediums of everyone. And if Jan Fehler and Vexit do battle, it could bring Christian Sendel and Ritchie back into play.
Yeah, Ritchie once again with a very impressive performance in this race. And always seems to go a little bit above in the race compared to qualifying. And the qualifying performance was definitely decent enough as well. Luca now into the pits. So is Riptide. So is Sandro. All these guys can be strapping on soft tires to get them to the very end now. And they're going to be coming out somewhere behind Vallu there. And they're going to have to put on a bit of a charge to try and claim some really good points come the end of this race. Speaking of charging, Vallu very close behind Cameron Cooper right now. Trouble is, Cameron Cooper does have DRS on Labrax up ahead. But look at Jan Fehler. The gap between himself and Vexit has already come down by about 0.6 of a second. Here is Vallu getting past Cameron Cooper into the Skidoo del Lago. And that is an easy move as you like. Cameron Cooper on 20-lap-old medium tyres could not possibly offer a defense there.
Yeah, Cameron Cooper still has a pit stop to make, and well, I think after his pit stop, he's probably going to be dropping behind the likes of Lars Algera down in P16. So let's see how long Cameron Cooper can make these mediums last. I'm expecting him to jump on into the pits at the end of this lap, but it may take a little bit longer. As Luca up to P11 now on those fresh soft tires. Can definitely see a world where Luca finishes in maybe even the top 8, maybe top 7.
Indeed, but now Vallu closing up on Labrax, who we very disheartened to see Vallu getting past him so soon on this stint. There you go, you see the Renault on the right-hand side, and there goes the Renault, bye-bye, as the McLaren, or rather the Red Bull, is past and up into P6. He does have that time penalty hanging over him, of course, Vallu at this stage. Luca getting past Zay further down, as well as Cameron Cooper coming out of the pits just behind Riptide, Sandro, Lars Algera, that sort of area. But out at the front, look, it's 1.7 now. The gap is continuing to decline at a rate of knots.
And Zay's actually right on the rear end of Luca. Marincello there as well. We've got a bit of a battle starting to emerge for P10. Luca should be able to drive away in P9, but Jan Fehler, look at this closing speed onto Vexit. We said it's going to be about half a second a lap. And when we start lap at 24, Jan Fehler is going to be on the rear of the Red Bull.
Yeah, it's not much time now. Christian Sendel dropping away, cannot live with the pace of Jan Fehler, and to be honest, you can't blame him. A difference in the tyres, a very significant difference, compound difference there between the softs and the mediums, meaning that Jan Fehler has plenty more pace than his teammate at this stage. His ERS is looking at about 50% right now, so he might still have enough in the tank to even challenge Vexit directly as soon as he gets up into DRS range of that Red Bull. And it's Christian Sendel picking up a 3-second time penalty now there in third. Jeffrey Ritchie currently in position to snipe P3 away from him and get a second podium of the season.
Well, from winning the opening race in Australia to now being on the cusp and the verge of dropping outside of the podium, I guess after Australia, many people thought Christian Sendel might run away with the championship, but Brazil is showing that that is most certainly not the case, and you've got pretty much a complete reversal of the top four from Australia, and I think Vexit might even be leading the championship, or it might be Jan Fehler if Jan can pick up a fastest lap to go with what is looking to be a rather likely win. He's within a second of Vexit, but this is the critical point now in the battle between Vexit and Jan Fehler. Can Vexit keep Jan Fehler behind for a couple of laps just to be able to take the edge out of that softer rubber from these soft compound of tyres Jan Fehler has? If he can do that, then he's going to be able to somewhat nullify the advantage that the soft tyres have over his mediums, and he should be able to defend it to the very end of the race.
I'd love to take a look at Vexit's car right now, just to see the state of his battery charge. Look at that. He's used a lot compared to Jan Fehler. Jan's got about double his battery percentage, and that could make all the difference when they do get into direct combat, because Vexit is still keeping Jan Fehler at arm's length for now, but it's because he's using his overtake mode much more liberally than the German behind. That is why he's able to keep him just outside of that DRS range for now, and you're sort of living on borrowed time in that regard, because at some point your battery will run out, and at that point it's going to be very easy for Jan Fehler just to cruise up and pass him. He's now within DRS range. I'd expect him to be passed within a couple of laps.
Well, let's see what Vexit has in store. This is the point where Vexit now has to save his ERS. I think he made the right decision to use it before, just to maximize the amount of time before Jan Fehler could get the DRS, so that when Jan Fehler does have the DRS, those soft tyres are that one lap older, have that little bit less of an edge in them. Jan Fehler is running close. I'm not sure if he's going to be close enough to have a go down the Reta Posta and into the Descida de Largo. I think he's going to have to wait for lap 26 at the earliest, as Vexit has a bit of a moment with the rear, and Jan Fehler will have a look.
He's not deploying overtake, though. He knows that he can just wait until turn one on the next lap. He's not getting too impatient with this one, and I think that's important, because we've seen Vexit is a robust defender. We saw that in his aggression with Lars Algera in the battle they had earlier on. So Jan Fehler might well be wary of Vexit, potentially here. He might not know about it, of course, as Luca is getting past Hamo for 8th place. He's now got his teammate Labrax as the next target there. Hamo trying to send it back up the inside of Ferradura, but not going to be close enough there. Luca is having an astounding race here, the Croatian in the Renault, standing in for that team as a reserve, but back out towards the front. 3.5 seconds clear of Christian Sendel now. It's these two, Vexit and Jan Fehler. And here we go, the overtake's gone green. This is going to be Jan Fehler making his way past Vexit, probably before they even get to turn one. Vexit has nothing left in the battery, and he cannot battle back against Jan Fehler, who sets the fastest lap of the race as he passes the Red Bull, and that is passing in style.
And let's see now if Vexit can stay within that 1 second zone of Jan Fehler. There's still 11 laps left in the race, and once we do get into the final couple of laps, those mediums will be in a better state than the soft tyres, and it could allow Vexit a later charger to attempt to reclaim the lead. Either way, these two are 4 seconds clear of Christian Sendel down in P3.
And Jan's got a really big decision to make right now, because he still has the advantage in terms of ERS. If he uses overtake a lot on this next lap and drops Vexit out of DRS, he can then continue to build the gap on those soft tires, continue to use the differential in grip between himself and Vexit without Vexit having the compensation, the band-aid that is the DRS. Right now, it's so close to the cusp of the exit. If Jan Fehler guns it on the exit of Junção, and he has done that, I think Vexit's not going to get DRS here. And as a result, Jan Fehler might just be able to gap him consistently lap after lap at this stage. And I'd love to see what Jan's battery charge is, because I suspect he's deployed quite a lot of it. There you go, look at it, 0%. He deployed a lot on that lap to make sure that he could get Vexit outside of 1 second. And that was critical. And it was on a knife's edge, because he only just did it.
Both the drivers now running with pretty much no ERS. Now it comes down to ERS management from both drivers. Being able to use that little amount of ERS that they have in the most effective places. Vexit tried to use everything to get back within the second. But Jan Fehler has done exactly what Vexit did in the opening laps of the first stint, in the opening laps of the race, where and it was Vexit who was able to stretch out over a second to Christian Sendel. And now Vexit has to play against his own game.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, is that Vexit has been using it so much throughout this race. He needed some to fight back with. He had about 11% when Jan Fehler went past him on about 40%. And as a result, on that whole lap, Jan Fehler could just use all the rest of his battery, and Vexit had nothing to compete with. That's why he fell out of 1 second. And because he's out of 1 second, it's just a grip battle between the two of them right now. Jan Fehler's going to win that on his 6-lap-old soft tires compared to the 10-lap-old mediums of Vexit. And he'll just drop away from him now. And that is exactly what he needs to do, because there will be a crossover point again when those mediums will get a little bit better than those softs in the last couple of laps.
And remember, we'll have to wait for those final couple of laps to see what happens. That could all have changed, because the fact that we had that lobby restart, fresh tires coming through, means the drivers might have been able to go that 1 lap longer. Here comes Vallu on a Conneretti. Conneretti will not defend. Vallu goes down the inside. And the soft tires work well against those older medium tires of a Conneretti. Vallu moves up to P5.
Yeah, still alive and kicking there in the Red Bull are those soft tires. And Vallu now has Jeffrey Ritchie next up the road, but it's a bit of a gap between the two of them as Riptide's trying to get past Peso there. Peso pushed a little bit wide there, but it seemed more of a reaction to Riptide rather than an actual incident between the two of them. Sandro is now going to be waved past Peso as well, because he needs to stick on in it with his battle against Riptide. Sandro has been looking at the rear wing of that Ferrari for this whole race pretty much, and he is going to be very sick of the color red by the end of this race.
Most undoubtedly, but then again, it's been a much better showing from Sandro here in the second round of the championship than it was back in Australia, where he finished P17, currently running P13, and will jump ahead of Riptide at the end due to time penalties. It's Peso who's arguably had the worst race of anyone, alongside probably the likes of Lars Algera, who's currently running in P15. Lars actually finished the opening race of the season down in P14, so Lars kind of showing that he has a quality pace, but not quite the race pace.
Yeah, I think Peso's going to be very disappointed right now. I don't really know what happened. It's potentially did have a bit of front wing damage in that first stint, and maybe he still is carrying a little bit, because I don't think he changed it in his pit stop. But he has just been consistently falling further and further down the order for a driver who would expect to be up there in 4th, 5th, 6th, thereabouts in a normal race situation. He has just not been able to live with it today, and Sandro getting past him there is kind of the cherry on top, really, for the poor race cake that Peso has. But of course, we know he's a very, very fast driver. We know he's a very determined driver as well, and I'm sure he will be back very much so, battling for podiums throughout the rest of this season, as long as he doesn't let this one get him down too much. The Racing Point's currently sitting there in 19th and 20th. It's not been a great race for them. Ricardo has had a pretty compromised strategy, and we've seen Yanni Tripkov in the wars on that opening lap. It's been a recovery drive from him since then, and it's not been a very successful recovery thus far.
No, has not been a good recovery. Yanni Tripkov also struggling down in P19, 1.2 seconds behind Ollie. I think he is starting to close in, so we might see a late resurgent drive from Yanni Tripkov, maybe P17 on the line. Lars Algera, a couple of tenths behind Cameron Cooper. He recently got passed by the Mercedes driver, and Mercedes having a decent showing, just like they did back in Australia, where they picked up a P6 and a P12. And they're running in P6 and P15. So rather consistent as Peso picks up another time penalty.
Lars Algera close behind Cameron Cooper. Cameron actually got past Lars about a lap ago. Does have 1 lap extra freshness in that set of soft tyres, which should be kicking in just about now, making the biggest difference at about this stage of the stint. And yeah, Vallu getting closer to Christian Sendel and Richie a little bit. It was about 3.7 seconds when he got past Conneretti. Now it's about 3.2. As the battle between the Williamses and the Ferraris will continue on as well. The gap between Jan Fehler and Vexit, a little update on that. It's now 2 seconds. Jan Fehler has been able to extend it, but Vexit stopped the bleeding. And if those medium tyres come online relative to the softs in the next couple of laps, he might be able to make a race of this at the very end.
It's all about tipping that seesaw at the start, you know, is completely tipped in Jan Fehler's favor. Now Vexit slowly starting to even up the scales and maybe can even tip it in his favor as down the inside goes Zeo Maranello. And somehow the drivers avoid making any contact, but Maranello will be under pressure from both Zay and Riptide it down into Ferradura.
Yeah, Zay on 19-lap-old hard tyres, giving Maranello's 13-lap-old mediums something to think about there into the Skiddo del Lago. The Ferraris almost made contact there. They might have even had a bit of a tap as they ran wide. But I don't think that's going to be causing too many trouble. It looks like the front wing is intact on Riptide's car, and that's what's most important here in this battle over the sort of mid-area of the points right now, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, with Peso still hanging in there in 14th with a couple of penalties to his name. Out at the front, Jan Fehler still gapping Vexit. Christian Sendel still defending from Jeffrey Ritchie, but has that time penalty in his pocket. And here come the Ferraris then. Here comes Riptide trying to get past Zay. It's going to be a matter of course, really, with the difference between their tyres. 10-lap-old softs versus 20-lap-old hards. It's no contest in the end, and Riptide gets past. But Sandro got a little bit too aggressive there, and into the side he goes. And spinning round he goes on the exit of turn 1. Sandro falling well down the order.
He had to try to follow Riptide through on Zay. He had to try to stick with the soft tyres of Riptide. I think Zay slammed the door a little bit too aggressively on the Williams driver. It will be one for the stewards to look at after the race. That is almost certainly going to be the case. Just keeping an eye up ahead. Christian Sendel now pulled over a second to Jeffrey Ritchie. He's got 4.5 laps in the race to try to kind of extend that gap up at 2-3 seconds, because remember, Christian Sendel has 3 seconds worth of time penalties.
Indeed, there's that 3 seconds. Let's take a look at Christian Sendel's onboard quickly just to see the ERS state from him, because that could make a big difference in his ability, and he has almost nothing left in the tank, which means Jeffrey Ritchie is in a far superior position right now with his 36-37%. I don't think we're going to see Jeffrey Ritchie being dropped by Christian Sendel before the end of the race based on that evidence, as Riptide now gets past Maranello as well. Maranello struggling to keep the soft tyre runners behind, driving a bit of a train here. 1 Ferrari's past. Zay on the hards is the next one. He's already defended from him once. Peso there on mediums as well, as Sandro gets a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. He's going to be falling all the way down to the very bottom. I think he probably should have stayed out there if he wanted to maximise his points haul, but at this point I think is probably just looking to end the race with a nice fast lap.
Yeah, just like he did back in Australia. I think he might have had some front wing damage, which is why he would have jumped in, because remember, here in FXR you get points for every position, so he'd be hurting his championship if he dived into the pits without having any significant reason to. As Jeffrey Ritchie right on Christian Sendel side by side down towards turn 1.
Yeah, looks like that's an easy enough move. There is the difference in ERS in action. And Jeffrey Ritchie, the Dutchman, back up into the podium slots, de jure as well as de facto, as he makes his way past Christian Sendel. Didn't necessarily need to make the move because of the penalties, but of course Jeffrey could always pick up, or Ritchie I should say, could always pick up one of his own. So does need to make the move, or does want to make the move at least, and indeed does so. Up into third he goes. And it's been a very strong start to the season from him. He's not been quite at the level of the front runners, but he's been very much at Christian Sendel's level throughout this race, and at this point he's besting.
We've also got a battle further down the order, as I think Luca is closing in onto his Renault teammate in the battle for P7. Renault versus Renault, P7 and P8. Luca on 12-lap-old soft tyres, Labrax on 15-lap-old mediums. Also towards the front of the field, Vexit now 1.8 seconds behind Jan Fehler. Slowly closing in, but I have a feeling Jan Fehler is just managing the gap.
Indeed, yeah. That's probably going to be the case. There's not long left in the race now, and I don't think there's enough time for Vexit to try and challenge Jan Fehler. This is Jan's race to lose at this point. and he'll be very happy with this. He was not happy with how that first race of the season went in Australia, but this is looking an awful lot better for the German. Here is Zay looking to try and get past Maranello. Neither of them have a time penalty at this point, so it's all about the position on track between these two as they enter their penultimate lap of the race in just a moment's time. Zay only 2.5 tenths behind, but the trouble is Maranello has DRS as well on Zay's teammate Riptide, who cannot gap the rest of these guys ever since getting past despite those soft tyres. So I think they are starting to fall away in terms of effectiveness by now. Luca finding that to his cost in his battle with Labrax as well. Zay still looking interested, getting all the slipstream he can, but can't quite get close enough into the braking zone.
Zay's on 23-lap-old hard tyres, and he is desperately trying to stick with Maranello, almost trying to find a way through. And don't forget, Peso's not too far off either, so he might even be finding himself in that P11 spot. Of course, that will all change after the race come penalties, because Zay and Maranello have so far kept a nice, clean race.
Indeed they have. They have had a pretty clean time of it. We saw that issue with Zay getting a bit of a tap from Riptide a couple of laps ago. Riptide's been involved in a couple of incidents here, though don't want to apportion blame in any direction because I haven't seen them very clearly at all. Christian Sendel's very close behind Jeffrey Ritchie in their battle, and of course it's always possible that Christian Sendel will be able to get that time penalty removed. They're actually side by side right now over third position, and there is Christian Sendel retaking the position away. Jeffrey Ritchie has nothing left in his overtake tank either, so he is going to struggle to get back past, and it is, of course, the last lap of the race as well. There's not really much in the way of overtaking opportunities left. Zay picking up a 3-second time penalty in his battle with Maranello. That is going to call that battle to a close effectively here. Maranello might look to try and get past Riptide, though. Doesn't need to because he doesn't have penalties, and Riptide does, and there's Zay! I'm not sure if he got a hit from Peso or what, but he 100%. Went round into turn 4, and as a result, he is going to drop down further. Jan Fehler, though, he's coming up towards the line to win his first race in Premier X, as it's just a matter of time now, just keeping the throttle pinned, seeing the checkered flag, and across the line to win the Brazilian Grand Prix. Disappointed in Australia, exalted here in Brazil. Vexit managing a very solid second position, but couldn't live with the strategy of Jan Fehler. Jeffrey Ritchie, another very solid podium for him in third. Christian Sendel down in fourth. Vallu, good recovery after a poor qualifying to manage fifth. Labrax gets sick. Hamo jumping up to seventh as a result of keeping his nose clean. No penalties for him. Conoretti and Luca in eighth and ninth. And now Riptide will come across the line in 10th, but Maranello will take that away. Riptide down to 11th, Peso 12th after a poor drive by his standards. Lars Algiera comes across the line, and Cameron Cooper actually hopping up to 12th there as things all sort themselves out as a result of penalty.
Disaster for Zay right at the very end. You could see him slowing down and then all of a sudden just juddering forward as he must have got an almighty shunt up the rear from Peso. So I'm not sure if Peso just missed his braking marker or what went on. Disappointment not just for Peso but for Sandra as well. To all of our viewers, you can vote for driver of the day in the chat. Let us know who you think has had the most impressive performance. I think for me, I don't know. I think I want to give it to, I think for me, actually, it's going to be one of the top 3.
Yeah, I mean, Vallu did a good job on his recovery, but he put himself in the situation where he needed to have a recovery as well back in qualifying. I mean, it depends on whether you can count driver of the day as qualifying as well as the race or not. I think that Luca did a great job after going out in Q1. He did a very fantastic job. He let himself down a little bit in terms of penalties and fell down to about 9th. But nevertheless, it was a very good performance. Jeffrey Ritchie as well, finishing ahead of Christian Sendel after what we saw from Christian Sendel last race. That's a very good performance from the Alfa Romeo as well. So those would be my 3 main contenders, I think, for driver of the day. But it's up to you guys. You guys are the ones who get to vote in the poll. And we will see in just a few moments' time who you're going to give it to.
Yeah, also, Sandra picks up fastest lap of the race, 4 tenths quicker than Jan Fehler on the final lap. So Sandra keeping up that 100% fastest lap record, you know, getting those bonus points in for Williams.
Yeah, another quick shout out there to Cameron Cooper, who's had a very solid race, up from 20th to 12th, keeping his nose clean, no penalties either. And as a result, the Brit manages that P12, some solid points for him. I've got to say, great weekend from Maranello as well. To qualify 10th, finish 10th, he's just been very solid here today.
But that is pretty much all. We're going to be jumping on in for a quick break. And when we return, we'll be having our post-race reactions as well as driver interviews with our top 3, Jan Fehler, Vexit, and Jeffrey Ritchie. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we jump in for our post-race show. We're joined by race winner Jan Fehler, P2 driver Vexit, and once again in P3, Jeffrey Ritchie in the Alfa Romeo. We're going to start off with our race winner, Jan Fehler. First off, I just want to ask you about Q2. You managed to make those medium tyres work. How close was it, and how much slower were they than the softs?
Well, how close was it? It was my second lap, right? It was my second try because the first one didn't really go to plan. I bottled that lap pretty much, and then I saw Vallu seemingly making it through on mediums into Q3, so I was ready to take the risk and just go again. And with the no 6 point something, right? Yeah, 6.6, I think. I think you can do a 6.5 on mediums, or I can do, but then it's pretty much the limit. So I was quite happy with 6.6, and that it was enough to get through to Q3 was one of the key things to win the race in the end. So that's good.
I do also want to ask you about what your mindset was like after you got news of the server restart for the race, because usually when you're on the alternate strategy, I'm guessing you'd be a bit upset to hear that, because it means that the drivers who did Q2 on soft tires have, fresh soft tires. But because you had done 2 hot lap sets on your mediums, did this kind of even it out, or do you think the race would have gone even more in your favor if it wasn't for the restart?
I'm not sure. I was a bit annoyed because I thought, even having 2 laps on mediums shouldn't make too much of a difference. Of course, it's going to be slower at the start, but I I don't know. I don't really have enough data to back up what I'm saying here. So when I say maybe it was a bit of a disadvantage, then don't take that for granted. It could be also very wrong. I want to say for the start, I was a bit afraid because of fresh softs. Obviously, that's going to be more of an advantage if you have fresh softs. But I think I got a pretty reasonably good start and only lost 1 position. So after all, I think you could say it evens it out in the end, considering I had 2 laps on them in qualifying.
You managed to stay on the back of your teammate Christian for pretty much the entirety of the first stint. Were you surprised as well when you pulled out the overcut and you came pretty much alongside him on pit exit? Were you expecting the gap to be bigger, or did you know that you kind of just had the pace on the old mediums?
I mean, I was using a lot of ERS on that overcut when the first soft people pitted, but I was still thinking that the soft guys would do the same when they come out on mediums. So I was a bit surprised that I was actually able to come out alongside of Christian, and then immediately make the move into turn 4, which was a bit of a dive, I think. But I bet he would have seen me coming and knew that I was going to go past anyway in the coming laps. So being teammates, I thought he was going to leave the door open, and gratefully he did. And then I could just leg it. Because on fresh softs at that point, after having old mediums and fitting for press softs, it's literally unlimited power. It's unbelievable.
Well, it most certainly looked like you had unlimited power. Jacob, any questions for Jan?
Yeah, so when it came to actually getting past Vex and taking the lead of the race, I noticed that you were being a little bit more economical with your ERS. First of all, were you aware of the ERS situation of Vex at that point?
Struggling to remember. I think I was. I think at some point somebody in my chat said that he had like 30%, but I think that was before I went past.
Okay.
I had a bit of trouble with fuel actually because I unintentionally put too little fuel into the car, so I had to fuel save in the end a little bit actually. But yeah, I was just making sure that the gap was around 2 seconds, maybe 1.7, 1.5 at the max, and then at any point, he would come any closer, I wouldn't have let him into the DRS and just, use the fuel again, and then maybe after that save it again. So it was quite, handy to manage.
Indeed, yeah. So well done on the management, and congratulations on your first win of the season.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic to hear from our race winner, Jan Fehler. Moving on then to P2 Vexit. I want to start off in qualifying because that was a bloody quick lap, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a little bit scary because I bottled the first one a little bit. Was under quite a lot of pressure, so I needed to get a good lap in, and thankfully I did. It was quite difficult, like because of just pressure and nerves, just to make sure that you're starting towards the front. But yeah, it was also a pretty damn close qualifying as well as a pretty competitive one. think P1 and 2 was split by like something like 0.00 something or other.
It was 5,000 if I
yeah.
remember correctly.
Yeah, that's a pretty insane gap. So it could have come down to just like the DRS activation. So like it was still pretty damn close. So really, really happy with that.
I also wanted to say, I noticed that quite a few teammates were giving each other slipstream. If Vallu had made it into Q3, did you guys have a plan to give each other slipstream, or was that never on the cards?
I don't believe it was. We hadn't practiced it beforehand, so I think it probably wouldn't have been really ideal to try and do it like in the session. We hadn't practiced it at all, so it was better to play it a bit safe. But again, like if if I didn't get that lap in, then it would have been for nothing. So yeah, it wasn't really at the front of our minds.
Okay, and then jumping on into the race, I'm sure you were more than aware that Jan was starting on those medium tires, and you knew how important it would be just to check out straight away. When you saw that Christian had made it up into P2, did you think, oh no, I'm not going to be able to pull that 1 second gap to another driver on the soft tires? Or did you have faith that you'd be able to pull it out of the hat to pull the 1 second?
I mean, because I knew Fehler would have been initially slower on the mediums, so the fact that Sendel was in front, I don't know if it was down to something like team orders or if they were in communication or not. I don't particularly know. But either way, Sendel being in front of Fehler was really quite disturbing / discouraging because I knew that it would have been a lot harder to break out of a second and because I knew that Sendel would have almost tried to have kept Fehler in DRS, and that sort of would have helped him to save ERS and also keep up a good pace. So, yeah, I mean, having only one Red Bull up front didn't help, but obviously Vallu recovered well, so GG to him as well. But I think gaining 7 positions or something. But yeah, it certainly did. It was a bit scarier with Sendel at the front, and I was actually quite surprised I was able to get the gap.
Well, it was an impressive run from you. Just final question from me before I hand over to Jacob. That final stint, when you saw that Jan was 2 seconds behind or so, how close did you think it was going to be, or did you know that it was going to be tough as soon as you saw the gap?
Well, I knew it was going to be pretty difficult to keep the race lead, and I kind of almost knew straight from the off. It's like as soon as I saw how well Fehler was doing with his pace on the mediums, already knew that it was kind of a bit in despair. Like it all depended on how quickly he could catch up to me on the softs, which he did pretty damn quickly. So yeah, it was like, after the pit stops. It was pretty damn hard to. I knew it was pretty damn hard to keep in front.
And I mean, that's all from me. Jacob, do you have any questions for Vexit?
Yeah, I'll just say, with my very quick maths here, looking at the championship standings, you'll be in second as you work after that first race, coming off of this second race as well. I think Jan has actually taken the top spot in the standings now. In fact, actually, I don't know. Actually, never mind. I'm gonna abort that question. I'm just gonna say, because my maths I think is wrong. What I'm gonna say instead is, what's your target for the rest of the season? And if you had to estimate right now, how many wins are we expecting from you this season?
Wins. I mean, I'm not gonna. I don't really think I can put a number on it because the top 4 is just gonna be so damn competitive. It'd be almost stupid to try and predict which one will be ahead at certain tracks and which one will be ahead at another. But goal for the rest of the season is certainly just to finish as high up in the championship as possible. Winning like the championship is my main goal, but with these speedy McLarens and obviously my teammate Vallu, it's really going to be quite difficult, but I'll do my best.
That's what we like to hear. And congratulations on another second place finish.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful to hear from Vex. I do believe in terms of the championship, I think Christian Sendel is leading 2 points ahead of Jan Fehler, who is tied with Vexit, but Jan would be ahead due to having a race win. We'll move on then to Jeffrey Ritchie, our P3 driver. Jeffrey, well, I mean, first off, congrats on another podium. How are you feeling after that one?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm also doing a 25% race right now. Just saying.
Yeah, we're the same one.
It's the quali session. Yeah, I mean, it went all right. I managed to get through Q3 with. I wanted to do mediums, but it was too risky, and I invalidated twice. So I just went sauce and yeah, binned it on the formation lap. Had 63-degree tires, and I lost a spot, but I held on quite well, and then managed to overtake him. And I saw Christian a little later on had a penalty, and I just stayed behind him till basically till the end. I like had one go at him, but I don't know. In the end, I didn't have the ERS to re-overtake him.
I've got to ask as well, because you say you're in a race. I want to know what track you're at, and more importantly, are you beating Vexit?
Yes, and Melbourne.
Okay, I'm not trying to work out, does yes mean that Vexit's beating Richie, or is Richie beating...
Vexit is right behind me right now.
Break check him. I think Vexit would okay, Ace, Richie, one thing that I do want to ask as well is, in terms of the championship, when we came into this, I know I myself thought this would be a McLaren versus Red Bull battle, a four-way scrap for the title. You've kind of wedged yourself right into this battle, and with a couple of bad results for Vallu, do you see yourself being this fourth kind of horse in the championship? And what are kind of your goals for the rest of the season?
Yeah, just consistency, I guess. Just trying to sneak in those podiums, and try to hopefully get more podiums. And I'm not really too worried about like winning every race or getting pole or stuff like that. Just trying to work on my own pace and get more consistency. As like this race, I actually had not a single warning, so it was very clean for me.
And that's all from me. Jacob, any questions for Richie?
Wait,
who did that?
Right. It sounds like we should probably
right in front of us.
Right. I mean, it sounds like we should probably leave them to their racing, I think. So I think we'll end the interviews there, if that's all right with you. But thank you guys very much for joining.
GG's, man.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining us. So, on that then, that is all that we have time for. Any final words, Jacob?
Yeah, I mean, it was very nice having a rather different sort of race here today. What we saw from Christian Sendel in Australia was a bit ominous for the season, but as it turns out, we do have plenty of competition out there at the very top, and that's exactly what we want.
That is all that we do have time for. That is all for round 2 of the championship. Round 3 will be next week at Mexico. Make sure you tune in Thursday evening. You'll be having Biggles bringing you the race. And I think it is a certain Tom who will be joining him in the commentary booth. Do tune in for it. It does tend to be some great racing and an excellent preview for the Premier X on the following day on Friday, which myself and Jacob will be bringing to you. But we leave you on the note that Jan Fehler leads the championship, and a certain Labrax will be doing the blindfold challenge for next week. So that's one that you won't want to be missing out on. For myself and Jacob, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.